Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of our podcast, Talent First. Today, we have a veteran, someone who has not just served our country for 20 years, not just led more than 16,000 folks in his troop, but is also a very big, coveted leader in the analytics tech industry. Hi, Abraham. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Firstly, it's truly a privilege to talk to you. Massive respect for serving our country. I think that's first thing we start. Now, Abraham, I think as I was telling you, the way we start usually is with a elevator pitch. तो आप हो कौन? Who is Abraham? थोड़ा बताइए अपने बारे में.
So it'll be a mix of Hindi and English. है ना?
आपके ऊपर है.
So मैं Colonel Abraham Cherian, retired, and I work with HSBC right now in an analytics role, and I always say at the moment because life is dynamic.
Right.
And I transitioned from the armed forces about 9 years ago, and to the question who I am, it would be, I would say that I'm somebody who can go into any kind of an environment, find what is to be done and how it is to be done, and get it done, right? And how did I get here? It is because I was in a comfort zone in the armed forces because I've been there for 20 years. I was willing to come out of that comfort zone and go back and re-educate myself and reorient my mind to be able to get here.
Right.
So, which involved forgetting a lot of things, learning a lot of new things, yet retaining all those values which are there with me for such a long time.
Right.
Values is something that you don't forget. It's just the mechanics of doing things that you have to forget and relearn.
Right.
That's what I am.
Perfect. So, अब्राहम एक बार अब आर्मी में गए थे. बहुत डिसिप्लिन लाइफ होती है एंड जो लोग यूजुअली जाते हैं वी अज्यूम कि बचपन से डिसिप्लिन रहे, बाय द बुक, ऑलवेज ऑन टाइम. तो मैं अज्यूम कर रहा हूँ कि आपकी चाइल्डहुड भी वैसी होगी. थोड़ा बहुत आप बताइए, आप आए कहाँ से थे, लाइक व्हाट वाज योर होम टाउन एंड हाउ आर यू व्हेन यू वर इन योर टीन्स?
Okay, yeah. Good question. So that's a long time ago. So hometown अगर पूछोगे तो I probably don't have an answer for it, even though I belong to Kerala. My parents are from Kerala.
आप केरला के होने के अलावा यू स्पीक वेरी गुड हिंदी फ्रॉम मी.
हाँ, because I was born in Kathmandu. मैं वहाँ पैदा हुआ था.
अच्छा.
Because my father he was posted in the Indian embassy there.
What did he do?
He was in an organization called the RAW.
Okay, I think
Intelligence Bureau and RAW.
Right.
So
And your mom was in ISI? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No. No. So he was posted there and I was born there in Kathmandu में पैदा हुआ था. उसके बाद central government job, so worked or lived all over North India. So I spent some schooling in Jodhpur in the 70s.
Okay.
MP in the 70s again. उसके बाद दिल्ली में पढ़ा हूँ मैं. दिल्ली में काफ़ी साल रहे हैं. फिर लास्ट आई थिंक स्कूलिंग मैंने कोलकाता में ख़त्म करी.
Okay.
KV, Central School. And so life in the 80s, right, when I was just became a teenager, just after the Asian Games and all that. So उस time पे to the question whether I was very disciplined and stuff, so yes, always school में उस time पे होता था कि academics, if you're good, you're kind of liked by your parents and their peers and everybody else. So academics, yes, I was good in school. I liked some subjects, जैसे science I liked.
चीटिंग करते थे आप स्कूल में?
चीटिंग नहीं करता.
झूठ मत बोलो.
नहीं करता.
कभी
जरूरत नहीं पड़ी.
ट्राई की थी कभी?
नहीं, ट्राई भी नहीं करा. तो वो एक्चुअली द गुड क्वेश्चन, बिकॉज क्या होता है कि हमारी फैमिली में इट वाज कंसिडर्ड अ वेरी बैड थिंग.
हर फैमिली में बैड ही होता है.
बट वो एक रहता था माय फादर और माय मदर से कि ये नहीं करना. तो हम लोग वही करके वैसे ही हम लोग, एंड सी इट sometimes it's good, lucky that you also have something in your brain and so you don't need to do it.
Right.
So you're not tempted. इतना ज़्यादा नहीं होता है जितना कि अगर आपको मार्क्स के लाले पड़ रहे हैं तो फिर आपको करना ही भी राइट करना पड़ जाता है. तो वो ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ी, तो इसलिए कभी नहीं करी. बट हाँ, होमवर्क टाइम पे करो एंड वो सब होता था.
तो शरीफ बच्चे थे.
हाँ, शरीफ ही था. शरीफ ही मान लो. एक ही चीज़ था कि मुझे टेबल टेनिस बहुत अच्छा लगता था. सो 8th 9th 10th क्लास में हमारे स्कूल में दिल्ली में था मैं. सो टेबल टेनिस.
तो एशियाड गेम्स भी हुए थे थोड़ा ऐसा
थोड़े बार. हाँ, देख के तो एक बैट लेके अपने बैग में रखता था और एक दो बार क्लासेस भी मिस करी उसके चक्कर कि खेलते रहे और छूट गया, राइट। तो जब पीटीए मीटिंग हुआ तो टीचर्स ने बोला कि इसी मार्क्स बहुत अच्छे हैं, सब अच्छा है, लेकिन ना टेबल टेनिस बहुत ज़्यादा खेलता है। सो माय पेरेंट्स क्या है, तो हाँ, और घर में वो डाइनिंग टेबल पे खेलते थे।
समझ गया, मतलब देयर वाज सम लेवल ऑफ कुछ कर रहे थे आप अलग से, बट घूम फिर के बाय द बुक।
हाँ,
मतलब यू आर लाइक वेरी एज अ परफेक्ट चाइल्ड यूजुअली।
थोड़ा हाँ वो था कि यू नो बी अ गुड बॉय।
हाँ, तो फिर आप मुझे बताओ कि आप जब 11th 12th में थे तो आपको था कि मैं अपनी कंट्री के लिए कुछ करूँगा, सर्व करूँगा, या फिर बिकॉज आपके डैड ने एक गवर्नमेंट अप्रोच ली थी और आपके आई एम अज्यूमिंग डैड के फ्रेंड्स भी गवर्नमेंट जॉब्स करते थे, तो घर में बातें ही ऐसी होती थी?
हाँ नहीं, एक्चुअली ऐसा नहीं था। सो जिस स्कूल में मैं पढ़ रहा था कोलकाता में, इट वाज इनसाइड एन आर्मी, यू नो,
कैंट।
हाँ उसके अंदर था।
हाँ,
तो ऑल ऑफ माय फ्रेंड्स देयर फादर्स वर इन द आर्मी।
अच्छा।
तो वो कभी कभी होता है ना कि स्कूल से पिकअप करने आ गए, तो यूनिफॉर्म में आ गए, तो इधर नो देखते हैं, यू नो, दिस गाय विद सो मेनी थिंग्स, मेडल्स वेडल्स लगे हुए हैं एंड ऑल दैट, एंड सो यू गेट इम्प्रेस्ड बाय दैट।
राइट।
दैट इज वन। द सेकंड वाज, जब हम लोग छोटे थे तो कमांडो कॉमिक्स होती थी। आई डोंट नो आजकल है कि नहीं, black and white comics about World War II and World War I, and the foreign comics, but
Okay.
it was all about, you know, army and the pilots and this and that. So you like it. You don't know the reality, so but अच्छा लगता था ना वो।
हाँ,
And then you saw these people coming, they're all looking very smart, and you know, like, यार ये करना है। जबकि your parents want you to do engineering.
राइट।
तो जो engineering का craze था वो mid 80s से शुरू हुआ actually. दैट उस टाइम पे क्या होता था, दैट इज जस्ट बिफोर लिबरलाइजेशन।
यस।
तो या तो आप इंजीनियर हो या तो आप डॉक्टर हो। अगर आप ये दोनों स्कूल के बाद आप नहीं गए सीधे तो आप फेलियर हो, बाद में आप आईएएस कर लो, वो ठीक है, लेकिन अब उस टाइम पे तो आपने कुछ किया नहीं लाइफ में। उसके अलावा था एनडीए। एनडीए में चले जाओ, विच इज लाइक अ टियर 2 थिंग, यू नो। और उसका रीज़न ये था कि
कमाई नॉर्मली ऐसे ही पूछ रहा हूँ मैं, जब एनडीए की आप बात करते हो, राइट, विच इज़ नेशनल डिफेंस अकेडमी, तो वो तो बड़ी सिंपल बात होगी, जो पैसे मिलते होंगे एनडीए में, चाहे आज भी देख लो, कंपैरेटिवली तो कभी मिलते हैं, मतलब जो आप करोगे।
हाँ।
तो ये कभी बात नहीं उठी जब आप सोच रहे थे एनडीए में जाओगे, यार भाई तुम कम कमाओगे यहाँ पे? नॉर्मली क्या होता है, नॉर्मली आप गवर्नमेंट जॉब्स देखते हो, सम पीपल ट्राई टू फैक्टर इन दैट और भी इसमें कमाई होती है। एग्जाम्पल दे रहा हूँ, आई एम नॉट सेइंग एनडीए इन जगहों पर तो स्कोप ही नहीं है, तो ऐसी कभी बात नहीं हुई कि यार कमाई कम होगी, इज्जत बहुत मिलेगी?
नहीं, अब एक्चुअली उस टाइम का कॉन्टेक्स्ट देखना ज़रूरी है
जी।
सी लेट 80s में government job was a very big thing.
It's still the way,
right? It still is, but the you know, interaction with other jobs has changed a lot.
right?
उस टाइम पे आपको बाहर जाके कौन सी ऐसी जॉब थी जिसमें आपको बहुत कमाई होती? बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं थे ऑप्शंस,
ज़्यादा एंटरप्रेन्योर बन जाओ,
है ना, इतने सारे नहीं थे। एंटरप्रेन्योर बनना है या प्राइवेट कंपनीज में, दे आर नॉट वेरी कॉमन। तो उस टाइम पे था गवर्नमेंट जॉब, तो यू नो हाउ कैन यू गेट दैट? Armed forces was a very good option because it was very respectable. Recently there have been a war, 71. I still memory, you know, it was there in people's memories.
this is the Pakistan one, East Pakistan.
71 पाकिस्तान, हाँ। तो वो सब था, तो armed forces was always a good one, but till about 87, 88, armed forces, NDA was, you know, you could join after 10th class.
Okay.
तो डिग्री नहीं मिलती थी, तो आपने एक बार ज्वाइन कर लिया, एनडीए आप करेंगे 1 साल और उसके बाद आईएमए करेंगे, तो आर्मी ऑफिसर, बट योर 10th class पास। सो ऑल दीज जनरल्स दैट यू सी ऑन टीवी, द ओल्डर वंस, they don't even probably have a degree.
Wow.
Because it was not relevant. So what I'm trying to say is that if you have the skills that you needed for that job, and it's not a job with service,
Yeah.
once you have that, you don't really need that degree. You need the skill. And so these generals who led an army into war and all that, वो 10th class pass है paper पे.
Wow.
So that is also a reason, right? That you say, yeah, okay, NDA चले जाओगे, but then you can't come out. You can't do anything else once you're there. You're there for life. So that was an option. But I didn't go to NDA directly, by the way.
ऐसे कर रहे हैं?
So हुआ ये कि you know, I applied. Written test was not a problem because maths, science, maths and English होता है उसमें, तो कोई problem नहीं.
दिल्ली में दिया था?
नहीं, मैं कोलकाता में था, तो वहाँ पे जाके एग्जाम पास हो गया. They'll call you for interview. Now, interview is a 4-day process. The psychologist test, and you know, they want to check a lot of your personality more than anything else, not your knowledge. So there was an uncle in our church, you know, who had been one of those people who in that interviewing organization. So he said, oh, he's been called for interview. Send him to me, I will train him.
अच्छा.
So psychological aspects में आपको train करना आसान नहीं होता है. You can't change somebody's psychology.
तो experience ही आती है.
So he called me and he gave me all these tests and dummy tests and इसमें ऐसे लिखो and always be positive and all that सब कुछ किया. I went for interview, failed.
अच्छा, okay, nice.
Next time again I applied because mechanical होता है स्कूल में, 12th class में apply कर दिया, फिर पास हो गए. वो एग्जाम के दिन इनफैक्ट आई वाज लाइक आई वाज नॉट टू वेल, तो मैंने आई सेड आई एम नॉट गोइंग.
क्या एज थी आपकी इस टाइम?
16.
अच्छा, बहुत छोटे.
16-17. तो मैंने कहा मैं नहीं जा रहा हूँ, आई एम नॉट वेल. तो माय फादर से नहीं चले जाओ, अभी तो सब हो गया है, यू जस्ट हैव टू, आई एम नॉट राइट, कर दो. कर दिया, फिर पास हो गया, फिर बुला लिया इंटरव्यू के लिए. सो नाउ I had already been through 2 rounds of this with that training and failed the interviews. Twice I failed the interview. Third time I said, मैं नहीं जाऊँगा, I am not going to that guy. He's well meaning, but he's not helping. मैं जो मन में आएगा मैं जाके करूँगा and बाकी देखी जाएगी. And parallelly I am also preparing for IIT and this.
कर रहे थे आप?
कर रहा हूँ. You know, अग्रवाल classes.
अच्छा.
उस टाइम पे वही होते थे, अग्रवाल classes and some other things.
अभी उस टाइम में मेन और एडवांस नहीं था, एक ही होता था ना?
एक ही होता था.
हाँ.
तो वो भी कर रहा था. तो उसके बीच में इंटरव्यू मीन्स 4 days फ्रॉम कोलकाता आई हैड टू कम टू बैंगलोर एंड डू दिस. सो आई केम एंड मेरे को जो मन में आया मैंने बोला, जो मन में आया किया, पास हो गया. सो पास होते ही यू नो आई वेंट बैक होम एंड आई सेड अब मैं IIT नहीं, पढ़ाई नहीं, बंद करती मेरा पढ़ाई. माय पेरेंट्स वर लाइक आर यू क्रेजी, अभी तो अगले महीने अप्रैल में आई क्लियर दिस, अगले महीने एग्जाम छोड़. हाँ, बिकॉज यू नो आई वांट टू डू दिस. And I am certain that मेरा merit में नाम आ जाएगा, because merit is written test plus interview scores and you get a merit list and you have to come in I think first 300 or something, and that time about 1 lakh people used to apply.
तो आपकी क्या रैंक गई?
तो I think it was 75-80 or something.
Wow.
And I got in. So generally if you pass your interview, that means you are there, you know, you make it, unless you are exceptionally bad in the written and so you drop because of that. हो गया and you know I went and joined NDA, but this was, I had already, you know, I had finished school the previous year and I had because I had failed interviews, I had to join something, so I joined Jadavpur University in Kolkata. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's an engineering you know college which is not part of Kolkata University. But
tell me one thing, I'm just curious, जिस टाइम पे आप बंगाल में थे, कलकत्ता में थे, that is like before you went to army, that time there was a whole communist regime.
yes.
एंड कम्युनिस्ट रजीम में क्या होता है कि द वैल्यूज आर वेरी डिफरेंट देन व्हाट इट इज़ इन दिल्ली. आप ऑब्वियसली बात है, सरकार अलग है, एकदम ही थॉट प्रोसेस ही अलग है. एंड उस टाइम पे द वैल्यू ऑफ इंस्टीट्यूशंस, सेंट्रल इंस्टीट्यूशंस बिकम्स वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग, बिकॉज आप द वे यू लुक एट इंस्टीट्यूशन इज वेरी डिफरेंट देन अ पर्सन सिटिंग इन दिल्ली वुड. बिकॉज क्या आपको यू सी हाउ पावरफुल दे आर टू सम एक्सटेंट, राइट? यू सी हाउ इन्फ्लुएंशियल दे आर, बिकॉज यहाँ पे पॉवर्टी भी ज़्यादा है कंपेरेटिवली, यहाँ पे यूनियन बाजी भी ज़्यादा है. सो आई एम जस्ट सेइंग, राइट? सो यू सी द वैल्यू ऑफ दैट गवर्नमेंट पावर. तो डिड दैट पावर एवर इंटरेस्ट यू? बिकॉज पैसा तो आपको डेफिनेटली इंटरेस्ट नहीं कर रहा था उस टाइम, आई एम श्योर.
Not really. You see, for a 16-year-old you know guy,
मोटिवेशन क्या थी आपकी
for joining NDA?
रिस्पेक्ट मिलेगी?
You know, no, it was this exciting life, right?
कुछ नया करेंगे,
Which is like you can do so many things which you'll otherwise never be able to do.
राइट?
Even today, आजकल मैं you know अपने सोसाइटी में लोग मिलते हैं who are all in tech companies and this. मैं ना एवरेस्ट के बेस कैंप में जा रहा हूँ. It's a peak of excitement for that guy. It's just I'm going to do this. I'm going to go and trekking in Uttarakhand. So the point is that मैंने वो सब किया when I was being fired upon. In the late 90s, I was in Siachen.
अच्छा.
I got wounded. So I was doing that, all of that excitement when I was being fired upon. मतलब नहीं, जान भी बचानी है. Make sure you don't fall into a crevasse. Make sure you don't get frostbite. And you have to live there for 3 months or 6 months.
Wow.
Not for 2 days over a weekend and you come back and say, मैंने बहुत adventurous हूँ और you know, so that life is what people today think I'm very, you know, outgoing, adventurous and I can take risk. Over a very controlled जो environment में आप जो adventure activities करते हो, उसमें risk बहुत कम होता है. When you're doing it as part of your job, right? तो उसमें risk ज़्यादा होता है. The potentially what can happen to you is much worse, and it's part of your job. You are not,
Right.
you know, you can't blame anyone for it. You have to do it, and there is a higher purpose to it. Right? It's not for, you're not doing for a salary, because salary तो कुछ खास है नहीं. तो आप उससे कुछ अलग चीज के लिए वो कर रहे हो. And that is what is a motivation. Right? Somebody says, that we are creating this chota sa army. There are 1,000 people in it, and we'll pay each one of you 10 lakhs a month. Okay? Month. दे दिया मैंने पूरा. अभी तुम जाओ और वहाँ deploy हो जाओ. You will be fired upon, you might die, do this. How many people will go? Right? तो
पैसे से कुछ बढ़कर है.
पैसे से बढ़कर कुछ है जो कि आपको वो करने के लिए मोटिवेट करता है. एंड वो सब में नहीं होता है.
तो जो आपको उस टाइम पे मोटिवेशन, आप 20 साल रहे आर्मी में, वो जो एक पेट्रियोटिज्म थी, जो भी था, वॉट एवर दैट फीलिंग वॉज, डोंट यू मिस दैट फीलिंग?
In a sense, yes.
Feeling जो थी वो.
In a sense, see, especially when it relates to your work. See, in your work outside the thing, that sense of purpose which जो कि आपके बॉस और आपके ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से ऊपर है, वो नहीं रहता है. अभी क्या है, बहुत लिमिटेड सा हो जाता है कि ये काम है, इनको करना है, कंपनी की रिक्वायरमेंट है, माई बॉस इज एक्सपेक्टिंग मी टू डू इट एंड आई विल डू इट. इफ इट गोज रियली ऑफ फ्रॉम what my value is, I will have to take a call.
Yep.
Right? But in army में क्या है कि if you are told to do something which is off from the values that have been given to you, you can refuse. I'll say no, I'm not doing it. This is because जो मुझसे एक्सपेक्टेशन है वो आपकी नहीं है और ना ही आर्मी की, देश की एक्सपेक्टेशन है. So I am working for that expectation, not for your expectation as my boss. Right? So I will go with that. And I will say, वो उस हिसाब से जब आप बोल रहे हो वो सही नहीं है तो मैं नहीं करूँगा.
ये करते थे आप?
मैं मना करता.
सीरियसली? सो डर नहीं लगता था कि ये, मतलब देखो जैसे बात है, ठीक है, मैं बिकॉज मैंने कभी आर्मी में नहीं रहा तो मेरे को बड़ी आज ग्लैमरस लग रही है भाई पेट्रियोटिज्म ये. अब मैं अगर दिन भर यही करता रहूँगा तो 2-4 महीने बाद सब मतलब मैं रियलिटी बता रहा हूँ, फिर रियलिटी किक्स इन, दैट रोमांटिसिज्म थोड़ा कम हो जाती है.
थोड़ा कम हो जाता है.
तो मतलब आई एम जस्ट आस्किंग यू, तो उसके बाद भी व्हाट रियली मोटिवेट्स यू? बिकॉज वो एक वो ना, लोग कहते हैं इन एनी रिलेशनशिप एक हनीमून फेज होता है, राइट? फिर यू आर लाइक हाँ अब क्या? सो वो क्या था, मुझे वो समझने.
दैट इज व्हाट इज डिफरेंट इन द आर्म फोर्सेस, दैट हनीमून फेज नहीं होता है.
नहीं होता.
जैसे एनडीए में जाती है ना, तो फर्स्ट पहले महीने में दे वांट टू मेक श्योर कि जो रहना चाहता, जेन्युइनली जो रुक सकता है ना, उसी को रोकना है. तो दे विल मेक लाइफ हेल फॉर यू.
हम भी ये करते हैं, जो हमें ज्वाइन करता है ना, पहले 2 हफ्ते में जितना काम देते हो
सब करो.
हाँ.
तो फर्स्ट 1 month वाज लाइक, आप को 4 बजे उठा देंगे, पीटी शुरू करा देंगे, 4 घंटे 5 घंटे. यू नेवर, यू कम फ्रॉम स्कूल, यू नेवर डन मोर देन 2 पुशअप्स. वो भी दिखाने के लिए, किसी लड़के को दिखाना हो तो कर दिया, उससे ज़्यादा नहीं. अब वो आपको 2 घंटे करवा रहा है. अब मतलब हालत खराब. तो उस टाइम पे जो छोड़ के चला गया वो चला गया. उसके बाद में कोई छोड़ के नहीं जाता. उसके रीज़न 2 है. एक है कि he has taken this, that is one, and there is another reason कि आप उस छोड़ के जाओगे तो you have to pay the government.
क्यों? ट्रेनिंग का?
For training. It is, and that time it used to be 7,000 rupees a week.
ये तो हमारे जैसा मॉडल हो गया. This is something like, you know.
तो उस टाइम पे क्या था कि 1990 में the secretary to the government of India used to get some 10,000 rupees a month. तो आप अगर एनडीए छोड़ोगे 4 हफ्ते के बाद तो आपको 7,000 रुपये महीने का, हफ्ते का देना पड़ेगा. 28,000 रुपये फॉर अ नॉर्मल पर्सन. 28,000 रुपये का बिग अमाउंट.
वाओ, अब भी होता है ऐसा?
या
ये तो स्कैम है.
नहीं, स्कैम नहीं है. सी, दिस इज अ वे टू मेक श्योर दैट पीपल स्टे. एंड
बट ये तो फाइनेंशियली जो वीक लोग हैं उनके लिए बुरा है.
उनके लिए बुरा है. तो इसलिए हम लोग कोई फाइनेंशियली स्ट्रांग नहीं थे. हमें पता था कि अगर हम घर छोड़ के जाएंगे बाप बहुत मारेगा.
पर इसका फायदा भी है क्योंकि साइकोलॉजी.
सो देयर आर मेनी थिंग्स, यू नो. इट्स अ वे टू गिव पीपल अ चॉइस कि पहले आपको दे गिव यू द वर्स्ट एंड से यार आर यू विलिंग टू टेक इट, है तो आप स्टे ऑन. एक बार हो जाता है तो बोलते हैं अब तो तुम्हें इतने पैसे देने पड़ेंगे, डजंट मेक सेंस, चलते रहो यार. द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया इज टेकिंग केयर ऑफ योर रिक्वायरमेंट्स एंड इट्स अ वेरी सेफ एनवायरनमेंट.
मज़ा भी आता है.
अनलाइक व्हाट यू थिंक ना कि अरे यार आर्मी में पता नहीं कहाँ से गोली लग जाएगी, कुछ जाएगा. इट इज़ अ सेफर एनवायरनमेंट देन आउटसाइड टुडे.
आई एम श्योर. आई नो व्हाट यू मीन.
एंड इट्स इन द माइंड, राइट? होता है ना कि the organization will take care of me. I'm doing something which is beyond. It's not a job. I'm doing something beyond that, and the government is giving me a fair compensation, it's taking care of my family, सब कुछ हो रहा है. आपको अमीर नहीं बनाएगा, लेकिन आपको भूखे भी नहीं मारेगा.
बट अमीर की डेफिनेशन बड़ी सब्जेक्टिव है.
सब्जेक्टिव.
अमीर कुछ लोगों के लिए सिर्फ पैसा होता है, कुछ लोगों के लिए बहुत कुछ होता है.
बहुत कुछ होता है. तो इसमें आप टाइम के हिसाब से गरीब हो, बिकॉज आप कहीं रह रहे हो, आप दिल्ली में पब में नहीं जा सकते, राइट? आप
वहाँ पे अल्कोहल कैंटीन की मिलती है,
तो वो
तो बहुत सस्ती होती है ना.
हाँ, वो अब होती है. एंड so these are some perks that have been carrying on for 100.
It's a big perk. People really value it. I've seen.
They value it. It's good, but the reality is, see, today I can, I have that card, right? I can go and buy 16 bottles of the best whiskey in the country, but I don't drink.
I'm just messing with you.
I mean, I don't drink so much that मैं महीने में 16 बॉटल पी जाऊँगा.
हाँ, right.
तो मैं लेता ही नहीं हूँ. It's got no meaning.
पर आपके रिश्तेदार नहीं बोलते थे कि हमारे
नहीं, मैंने आज तक किसी को नहीं दिया.
नहीं, फरमाइश नहीं आई आपकी?
किसी नहीं आती है. लोग बहुत सारे बोलते हैं, बट आई डोंट गिव इट. एंड द रीजन इज दैट इट्स अ privilege that the government has given to you because you're serving.
Right.
तो मैं बस ये बोलता हूँ कि I will give it to you, but first you go and serve for 6 months.
अच्छा.
सुबह 5 बजे उठ के पीटी करो. फिर उसके बाद आ जाओ. I'll give you my quota. I'll give it to you. Don't think it's something that it's like asking you कि अरे last year you got a bonus of 5 lakh ना, उसमें से 2 लाख में से दे दो. क्या करोगे उसका?
समझ गया आपकी.
और somebody I also got this कि अरे यार बड़े मजे हैं तुम्हारे, तो लाइफ में पेंशन है. Now the pension is a deferred compensation that you're getting, right? Because the compensation you got is very low. End of the day, who will go and fight a war or put his life at risk unless आपको
family secure नहीं है,
taking care of you. And that taking care is the public in the country, not government is only a representative, right? तो बोलते हैं कि देखो आप ये काम जब जरूरत होगी तो आप सब कुछ करोगे, but बाकी टाइम पे हम सबका ख्याल रखेंगे. So then आदमी बोलता है यार पैसे कम है लेकिन ये काम है ना, दिस इज वर्थ डूइंग, आई विल गो एंड डू इट, आई विल स्पेंड माई लाइफ डूइंग इट. सो इट इज लाइक वो मेडल मिलता है, उसकी क्या वैल्यू है? 300 रुपये में आप वहाँ खरीद सकते हो, दिल्ली में जाके खरीद के यू कैन पुट इट. उसकी कोई वैल्यू नहीं है, मॉनेटरी वैल्यू नहीं है, लेकिन लोग क्यों पहनते हैं उसको?
कुछ है.
और वो कोई भी नहीं पहन सकता. यू कैंट बाय एंड वेयर इट बिकॉज यू गो टू जेल इफ यू डू दैट. सो व्हाई इज इट गॉट सो मच वैल्यू? दैट इज बिकॉज you see, as a society, हम लोगों ने not just in India, any country in the world, आपने emotions को उसमें involve किया है, right? So you're given a lot of value to those medals in emotions, not in terms of money. उसमें silver नहीं होता, it is made of some
plastic or whatever,
right? तो वो emotional value जो है वो आपको पैसा नहीं दे सकता है. And that's the whole concept of creating an armed force. Otherwise, what is the other option? आप बोले insurance policy होती है ना कि आपने प्रीमियम भरा,
सेम बात यही है.
आप बोलो आर्मी नहीं रखना है मत रखो, लेकिन जिस दिन लड़ाई होगी सब जाएंगे. तैयार हो आप तो बोलो कि विल नॉट हैव आर्मी, नो प्रॉब्लम. जिस दिन पाकिस्तान बोलेगा अभी हमने एक को कर दिया, अब सब लाइन लगा के उधर जाओगे, मना नहीं कर सकते. आर वी प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर दैट? यू कैन डू दैट ऑल्सो. सो देयर इज अ मॉडल दैट वी आर फॉलोइंग which works well,
works very well,
and it is a long term model जो चल रहा है. Other models are also there, जैसे यूएस में होता है कि they have a very small armed force. जब लड़ाई होती है तो बोलते हैं ओके नाउ वी विल रिक्रूट. आपको नहीं अच्छा है फिर भी आओगे. वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 में ऐसे हुआ था कि इट इज कॉन्स्क्रिप्शन. सो you can take that model. वियतनाम में भी people went, they were not willing to go but they went. So
साउथ कोरिया में आज भी यही है, आपकी कंपल्सरी मिलिट्री ट्रेनिंग है.
So there are many models. There's a model that we are following because there is some tradition behind it. It works.
नहीं तो आप 20 साल आर्मी में रहे, अभी 9-10 साल आपको कॉर्पोरेट में हुए हैं, क्या सिमिलैरिटीज दिखी है आपको दोनों के बीच?
सिमिलैरिटीज सो एक चीज़ है, स्ट्रैटेजी समथिंग दैट इंटरेस्ट मी. सो पीपल से यार क्या मतलब दोनों में क्या हो सकता है, बिजनेस मैनेजमेंट और मिलिट्री, उसमें क्या हो सकता है?
Other than the hierarchy.
I'm not talking about hierarchy at all, right? Business management actually came from the armed forces.
Or wars, right?
Wars and how you manage.
Books on wars or the books on strategy?
Yes.
Real books.
Logistics, supply chain has come from the army.
Yes.
Armed forces.
Yes.
Now, I will give you one example, छोटा सा. Marketing and business strategy होता है ना, competitor क्या करेंगे, क्या करना चाहिए, उसने अपना नया प्रोडक्ट निकाल लिया, हम क्या करेंगे, हम अपनी प्रोडक्ट की प्राइसिंग कम कर दें और ज़्यादा लोगों को बेचें, या हम प्रीमियम प्रोडक्ट बनाएं और ज़्यादा रेवेन्यू लें, क्या करेंगे? Now in the army, similar example. We are going to fight a war. एनिमी कहाँ से आएगा, कितनी फोर्स लेके आएगा, उसके पास क्या इक्विपमेंट है, मैं क्या चीज़ लगाऊं कि उसको काउंटर कर सकूं. डू आई जस्ट वांट टू स्टॉप हिम और डू आई वांट टू गो अहेड,
kill him.
डू वांट टू किल हिम एंड गो अहेड.
Right.
If I do that, what else am I compromising on? You cannot have everything everywhere.
Resources are finite.
Resources. So where do I apply my resources? अब मार्केटिंग और स्ट्रैटेजी में क्या होता है कि आप रिसोर्सेस पर फंड्स कहाँ लगाना चाहते हो. मार्केटिंग कैंपेन में लगाना है कि आपको ऑपरेशंस में लगाना है या आपको हायरिंग करके टैलेंट लाना है. राइट.
Very true.
So it is the same thing, the names are different. So when you look at it that way, you take one step back and बोलो कि यार कॉन्सेप्ट क्या है आप समझ जाओ, तो आप उसके बाद में आप कभी भी ट्रांजिशन कर सकते.
बस फर्क बस ये है कि यहाँ पे लाइफ एंड डेथ की बात,
यहाँ पे लाइफ एंड डेथ की बात नहीं है, वहाँ पे भी एक्चुअली नहीं है.
मैं वहाँ की बात करूँ,
वहाँ पे भी नहीं है. सी आप इसी हमें मूवीज में क्या देखते हैं ना, वेरी टैक्टिकल लेवल.
हम तो वही मूवी देख के बता रहा हूँ,
टैक्टिकल लेवल की उसने गोली मारी, उसको गोली लग गई,
वही देख.
बट यू गो अप वन लेवल एज अ कर्नल. यू सी आई नो कि मेरी यूनिट डिप्लॉय होगी तो about 4% casualties in war is there. It will happen.
ये
4% होगा.
स्टैट्स बताते हैं.
Statistically, वर्ल्ड वॉर में भी ले लो, उसमें भी ले लो, सब 4% 5% आपका होगा. आप उसको नहीं चेंज कर सकते. Right? So that is not your worry. And in fact, that is one of the things that I used to emphasize on telling people. जब आपकी कहीं कैजुअलिटी होती है, पीस टाइम में भी आती है, किसी को चोट लग गई, यू कांट स्टॉप एवरीथिंग. बिकॉज लड़ाई में आपको ये एक दिख रहा है, आज 25 लोग दिखेंगे पड़े हुए. आप उस टाइम पे घबरा जाओगे और आपने काम बंद कर दिया तो लड़ाई कैसे.
इमोशनल मत हो, मतलब ये
यू हैव टू गो ओवर इट. राइट. एंड इन द आर्मी you go one level higher and you have a general, like in the organization which I was working for. So you say यहाँ पे हमारा क्रिटिकल है, इसको होल्ड करना है. आपने वहाँ पे एक बटालियन लगा दिया. Now the understanding is next 3 days you have to hold that place. उसमें आप चाहे 50 लोग मर जाओगे या 200 लोग मर जाओगे, you have to hold. Because I want to go in from that side. So now what is there? Life and death is happening here, but life and death is not happening here.
Right.
So even in business management, आपका life and death नहीं होता है. You're always making choices. So the difference is in the armed forces, in some of the choices there would be death involved. At a management level.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the coder level.
Yeah.
कोडर लेवल में तो उसको बोला यार ये अटैक करना है, उसको बाकी कहानी नहीं मालूम है.
तो फौज है ना, कोडर फौज है.
वो फौज है, वो राइफल लेके बैठा हुआ, बोले सामने दुश्मन आएगा उसको मारना है. अब उसको बड़ी कहानी नहीं मालूम कि देखो भाई आप
वो CXO नहीं है.
करेक्ट. दैट यू आर टुडे यू आर डिस्पेंसेबल, टुमारो यू मे बी इन अदर रोल वेर यू आर नॉट डिस्पेंसेबल. बट ही डजंट नो दैट, बिकॉज इफ ही न्यू दैट ही वाज डिस्पेंसेबल ही वुड नॉट बी इफेक्टिव.
Right.
Right? And corollary to that is COVID शुरू हुआ. Many companies said, do we lay off people? Should we lay off? Should we not? क्यों lay off कर रहे हैं? क्यों lay off? अभी भी lay off ही चल रहा है. So now the point is, उस organization के लिए what is critical? Do you want, is laying off critical? Is that person indispensable or not? And then you take a call. And an example from one of the organizations where I worked, there were a large number of legacy branches, पुरानी branches थी जो कि profitable नहीं थी. Because market saturate हो गया, mature हो गया Muthoot में. हाँ. तो अब now I was head of products and also analytics, so I was looking at how to optimize your operations and stuff. Because there are so many branches which are not profitable. So, and it's been there for a long time. So my boss, he suggested that you close it down. But now there are people in those branches. क्या करेंगे, वो 20-20 साल से बैठे हुए हैं. And that is also the reason why it's not profitable. क्योंकि क्या होता है, आपको इंक्रीमेंट मिलते जा रहा है, तो ब्रांच मैनेजर को इतने इंक्रीमेंट मिल गए कि वो अभी वाइस प्रेसिडेंट की सैलरी ले रहा है, लेकिन कर रहा है ब्रांच मैनेजर. एग्जाम्पल, नॉट सो मच, बट this is one of the things. So because that employee is loyal and is working with you for a long time, he's become dispensable. It's not
a very sad thing, but
it's not intuitive, right? You would think यार loyal है, बहुत अच्छा है, but it's market में वो change हो गया है.
सही बात है.
अभी either that employee is reskilled himself or herself and moved into something else, or at some point becomes
ageism वाली बात भी है ना.
ageism वाली बात है. It's become too expensive. So क्या कर सकते हैं उसमें as a company, right? अगर आप बोलोगे नहीं रखे रहो तो loss, you have to take that loss, which means what? Somebody else जो दूसरी किसी रीजन में बहुत ज़्यादा प्रॉफिट ला रहा है, he is subsidizing, then that person is going to ask questions कि मैंने तो इतना अच्छा काम किया, आप मेरे को बोनस नहीं दे रहे हो क्योंकि कंपनी ओवरऑल नहीं बन पा रही, तो मेरे से क्यों आप इतना घिसा रहे हो, राइट? सो ये सब चीज़ें जो है कभी भी सिंपल स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड नहीं होती है।
जी जी।
सोशल मीडिया में आप एक वन लाइनर डाल देते हैं और लोग बोलते हैं अरे देखो क्या हो गया क्या हो गया। एक्चुअली जब कंपनी में देखो बहुत नुआंसेस होती हैं, आपको सारी चीज़ें देखनी है एंड उसके बाद आप चलोगे तो यू विल फाइंड एन ऑप्टिमम सॉल्यूशन एंड द आर्म फोर्सेस इज एग्जैक्टली लाइक दैट। इट्स नॉट कि तुम वहाँ जाके बर्बाद कर दो सब कुछ, तुम ये कर दो और तुम सब मर गए, नहीं, ऐसा नहीं। यू वांट टू बी एबल टू continue to fight till you reach that objective which the government has set for you, which means give and take some place, right? That's how it was.
तो अब आप जब रह रहे थे, you were in this, you were managing 16,000 people if I'm not wrong in the last assignment you had. मैं काफ़ी वेटरन्स से तो नहीं बात करता, बट मैं काफ़ी लोगों से बात करूँ जो हॉस्टल्स में रहे, जो बोर्डिंग स्कूल्स में रहे, उनके लिए क्या होता है टू गेट आउट ऑफ दैट आइडेंटिटी, दैट कंफर्ट जोन। अब 20 साल रहोगे तो थोड़ी हद तक कंफर्ट जोन तो बन जाएगा, वो दोस्त यार हैं, यू नो, विद द गाइस यू आर हैविंग अ टॉक्स, एक वो अलग फैमिली है। तो उससे बाहर निकलना, मैं काम की बात नहीं कर रहा, उससे बाहर निकलना सबसे ज़्यादा मुश्किल मैंने अपने दोस्तों का देखा जो बोर्डिंग स्कूल में गए, और वेटरन्स भी एक दो लोगों से मैंने बात की तो मुझे कुछ सिमिलर चीज़ पता लगी जहाँ पे दैट फैमिली थिंग, दैट फ्रेंडशिप, दैट इज समथिंग विच पीपल डोंट वांट टू लूज।
Yes.
तो आपकी कॉन्टेक्स्ट में क्या था?
हाँ, तो यू राइट, जितना ज़्यादा करते थे पहले उतना नहीं होता है अभी, लेकिन व्हाट हैपेंस इज जब आपने 20 साल कर लिया है तो एक तो है कि 20 साल में आप इतने सारे सीनियर लोगों से भी जान पहचान होगी जो अभी रिटायर हो गए हैं, और आप जूनियर्स जो आपके साथ में कर रहे थे वो अभी देयर स्टिल इन सर्विस, वो भी हैं, एंड इट्स अ लॉन्ग इनफ टाइम फॉर यू टू एस्टैब्लिश सम रिलेशनशिप्स, दैट्स वन. Second thing is the organization does not just kick you out.
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
Transition.
So, no, not even transition. See, once you've been there, even for those who do 5 years, 10 years, that connection always remains in the sense that ek to basic like canteen is, you know, for the rest of your life, that benefit is there. So, you will keep visiting you whenever you want. You can go and buy your grocery and stuff. You have these social places, clubs and institutes, you know, places where you can socialize. You still have access to all that. When there is something like a reunion, you will, yes.
क्या होता है reunion?
Reunion is like I commanded a regiment. I was in artillery. So
नाम क्या था regiment?
52 Field Regiment. So it is somewhere in the western sector now. So I was the boss. It's like the CEO of that unit. 700 people.
Wow.
It's a small thing. एंड टू एंड आप उसके बॉस हो, मतलब आप वो जवान का तनख्वाह से लेकर उसकी छुट्टी से लेकर क्या काम करता है, कितनी ट्रेनिंग करता है, ऑल द इक्विपमेंट दैट्स देयर, गन, इट्स लाइक मिलियंस ऑफ डॉलर्स ऑफ वर्थ ऑफ इक्विपमेंट, गाड़ियाँ, उनके कपड़े, एवरीथिंग हैज टू, देयर इज अ सप्लाई चेन दैट, सो बूट इज 5 years लाइफ. सो इफ दैट जवान हैज नॉट गॉट हिज रिप्लेसमेंट बूट, यू आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल as the leader.
I know what you mean.
There are people to do it for you, but you're so उस टाइप की ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में आप रहे हो 3 years, you have been the boss, and including as a CEO you can give that person 1 year of RI rigorous imprisonment if that person is there's something with his discipline.
Really?
कोर्ट का पावर है, कमांडिंग ऑफिसर, कोर्ट का पावर है, which is Supreme Court, you know, people went to Supreme Court that कि ये नहीं हो सकता, it is, you know, नहीं हो सकता. Supreme Court has confirmed that the commanding officer's power will remain the way it is.
Wow.
Because it is a very well thought out thing for the organization. Just a recent judgment about 3-4 years ago. So now when you have that kind of power, and you can change the lives of people.
Wow.
And so many people can do it positively, many people also do it negatively. You can make life difficult because you are like a Mughal emperor, right? So मेरे ऑफिस में white gloves पहन के चाय लेके आता था waiter when I was a CEO. So it can go to your head, and then people say कि आप तो comfort zone में हो, आपको तो ऑफिस में ही मिलता है, अब आप जाके मशीन से चाय लेते हो पेपर के कप में, तो आपको कुछ अलग नहीं लगता. नो, दैट इज द ट्रांजिशन, दैट्स मैकेनिक्स, राइट? आपको चाय उधर मिल रही है, इधर चाय मिल रही है ना, तो दैट फॉर मी दैट इज ओके. फॉर समबडी एल्स इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि आप मेरे को ट्रे में ला के दें, एंड आई एम यूज्ड टू दैट. मेरे को वो चेंज नहीं करना. तो मेरे को क्या था कि दैट पार्ट इज ओके, बट आई वांट टू चेंज व्हाट आई एम एबल टू डू एंड व्हाट आई एम एबल टू इन्फ्लुएंस, एंड यू नो दैट डेफिनेशन ऑफ व्हाट इज सक्सेस, that I want to change. तो इसलिए बाहर आ गए, because those are incidental things. ठीक है, वो तो कहीं भी मिल जाएगा, आप पैसे दो तो मिल जाता है. राइट.
तो जब आप निकल रहे थे, राइट, आई थिंक 2013 इज व्हेन
2014.
2014, फर्स्टली आपको मोदी गवर्नमेंट अच्छी नहीं लगती? मुझे लग रहा है कोई
नहीं ऐसा
नहीं,
नहीं.
I'm just joking.
नहीं ऐसा कुछ नहीं है.
I'm just joking. No, but coming back to the main point, when you were leaving 2014, that transition period, 4-6 महीने का तो transition आराम से होता,
2 साल.
2 साल
For me, because
बड़ा आपका वो था. जो आसपास के लोग थे वो क्या आपको सलाह बांट रहे थे?
तो एक तो सी इट्स नॉट इजी. एक तो था कि जो आपका करियर चल रहा है वो अच्छा चल रहा है, तो लोग बोलते हैं क्यों जा रहे हो, आप छोड़ रहे हो, इंक्लूडिंग माई बॉस एंड यू नो द सीनियर पीपल.
और प्रमोट हो जाओगे और बड़ा
प्रमोट. जैसे मेरे बैचमेट्स अभी ब्रिगेडियर, सीनियर ब्रिगेडियर्स, एंड सो
how does it work? Can you explain the structure?
structure is so you start with a lieutenant, that is the lowermost, and then you become captain, then you become major, then you become a lieutenant colonel. So up to this is time scale. So that means 13 years आपने serve किया तो आप lieutenant colonel बन गए. आप you know, unless you do something grossly wrong and wrong, so you become lieutenant colonel. After that is selection based on your merit. So around 16-17 years पे you have a promotion board based on your performance of the last 7-8 years and your, you know, how you education and all that during the thing.
And I'm sure very political also.
No, it's not.
No?
It's a very, very because I was in that department which was doing the promotions.
Okay.
So I know how much of pain we had to go through to make it anonymous. That means board में क्या होता है, 4 major generals were sitting. They don't know who the person is. There's only a number there which is randomized.
ऐसा नहीं होता कि मेरा दोस्त है.
No, it's a randomized number and this entire profile is put in front of that.
ये ऑफिशियल अनऑफिशियली भी ऐसे ही होते हैं?
नहीं, officially
ये ऐसे ही होता है.
ऐसे ही होता है. So there is a number and the person who's conducting that board, which was my boss, who's a brigadier, he would say that, you know, look at agenda number 67. He has got this in his appraisal. He has done these courses and education and this and that. He has served in so and so places. And so these people say
Very knowledgeable.
yeah, and they vote, which they can't discuss. So there are 5 people who are voting.
Wow.
And so if 4 out of 5 say yes, the guy gets promoted. If 3 out of 5 say yes, then he will go and review. They'll come around a second time with a different number on that, so that they can't remember and say, यार इस बंदे को मैंने last time yes बोला था अभी वो.
Wow.
So it's like that. It's a very, very systematic process up to, I think, major general. Anonymous in this thing. Beyond that, now lieutenant general is commanding 2 lakh people. There is a political angle in it. It's not political influence, but the government wants to have a say in who is getting to that level.
And even the higher ups want to say, right? Like,
Correct. It's fair.
Any organ.
You don't want to have martial law, so you want to make sure that the good people, you know, who will not threaten the country with funny things, work.
Yeah.
Fair enough. तो वैसे होता है. So
तो आपको कुछ लोगों ने डाउट नहीं किया यार तुम 20 साल अब आर्मी में रह रही हो?
हाँ बिल्कुल.
क्या ही आता है?
तो लोगों ने बोला कि हाँ बिल्कुल किया. लोगों ने बोला कि आप क्यों छोड़ रहे?
नहीं, ये नहीं, डाउट नहीं किया कि किया करोगे क्या?
बिल्कुल कि देखो क्या होता है कि उस टाइम पे और अभी भी ज्यादातर लोग क्या करते हैं, सिक्योरिटी एडमिन जॉब्स करते हैं, विच आर
खुद ही खोल लेते हैं.
हाँ खोल के कर लेते हैं, विच इज compared to what a colonel does or a brigadier does, it's like okay, it's nothing, right?
But you make good money.
You make money there, but then you know also many people say यार आर्मी ऑफिसर सिक्योरिटी के लिए सबसे अच्छे होते हैं, but I say no, आर्मी ऑफिसर कभी भी अपनी सर्विस में सिक्योरिटी का काम नहीं करता है.
Already secured है.
अब see because उसका काम है लीडरशिप.
हाँ.
He is managing resources, people. कि आपका ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल गोल क्या है, आप उसको अचीव कर रहे हो. He is not leading people who are standing guard in different places. He is not doing that in the army.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
So when people say यार आर्मी ऑफिसर के लिए सबसे अच्छा पोस्ट रिटायरमेंट काम ये है, तुम बोलते नहीं सबसे खराब है. उसका सबसे बेस्ट है CEO बनना किसी कंपनी में. But with that transition and reskilling, re-education, changing your mindset, you can do that. I say that.
आपने यही किया ना?
मैंने because I'm convinced of that, so I'm going through that journey. It will take time, but I'm going through that journey. तो उस टाइम पे लोगों ने बोला यार क्यों कर रहा है ये सब, तेरे को तो प्रमोशन मिल जाएगा, you are top of the heap in your bank, all that is there. तो मैंने कहा नहीं, I want to do something different, and now is the time when I can optimize a second career.
You were 41 at that.
41. तो अब मैं 10 साल बाद भी जा सकता हूँ, 15 साल, but then it's not a second career, it's a second job. There's a difference. तो मेरे को उसको सेकंड करियर करना है तो अभी निकलना पड़ेगा. एंड इट्स ऑलवेज, देखो लाइफ में क्या होता है कि हर समय चॉइसेस कभी भी क्लियर ब्लैक एंड वाइट नहीं होती हैं
थोड़ा तो खेलना
कि ये खराब ये अच्छा, बोलते यार ये भी ठीक है ये भी ठीक है, अभी कौन सा लोगे. व्हेन यू हैव एथिकल डायलेमा, इट्स नेवर ब्लैक एंड वाइट. यार ये करोगे तो ये खून करो कि नहीं करो, नहीं ऐसा नहीं होता है. मतलब यार ये जो है ना, तुम ये कॉन्ट्रैक्ट साइन कर दो, थोड़ा सा टैक्स का घपला है, यहाँ पे आपको पैसे थोड़े कम मिलेंगे लेकिन टैक्स का घपला नहीं है, अब बताओ कौन सा लोगे. ऑलवेज इट इज देयर इज ऑलवेज नेवर ब्लैक एंड ग्रे, ऑलवेज ग्रे. यू हैव टू मेक अ चॉइस. एंड माई बिलीफ इज कि जो लोग वो चॉइस अच्छी ले सकते हैं, दे आर द वंस हु कैन बिकम गुड लीडर्स. ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट तो बच्चे को दे दो ना, कि देखो ये 0 और 1, आपको क्या चाहिए, वो 1 लेगा, तो बच्चा भी कर सकता है.
ट्रू, नो अग्री.
द पर्सन हु कैन अंडरस्टैंड कि यार ये मैं अगर करूँगा
जी,
तो किसके ऊपर क्या इफेक्ट पड़ेगा,
राइट,
लॉन्ग टर्म क्या इफेक्ट पड़ेगा, किसको लॉस होगा, किसको बेनिफिट होगा, लोग क्या सोचेंगे, सब कुछ आता है ना. एंड देन इसमें करेंगे तो क्या होगा. और देन ऑन टॉप ऑफ दैट ऑफ कोर्स ये लीगल है, इलीगल है, एथिकल है, नहीं है. उसके बाद में वो बंदा बोलता है आफ्टर कंसिडरिंग ऑल ऑफ दिस आई कैन मेक दिस चॉइस, जो मैं ये कर रहा हूँ, एंड इज एबल टू जस्टिफाई इट, राइट, इज एबल टू आर्टिकुलेट कि यार मैंने क्यों किया. तो वो बंदा लीडर है. जो बोलता है कि नहीं यार मैंने ये किया, अभी ये मत पूछो कि क्यों किया, तो वो यार वो तो इज अ डिक्टेटर. He can't justify it, which means that this process of decision making is not scalable or repeatable. It's going to be arbitrary. जो बंदा systematically बोल सकता है यार considered मेरी choice ये है, वो आगे भी कोई और प्रॉब्लम आएगी तो वो भी considered choice करेगा, right? जो बंदा वो नहीं कर सकता, जो आदमी ये नहीं कर सकता, he is making arbitrary choices and hoping that it goes, ठीक हो जाए, नहीं हो जाए, पता नहीं है. So that is very important. So that's what I did, and I said, look, for me this is important, and I'm doing it.
खुद के लिए किया,
खुद के लिए किया कि मेरे को ही करना है. And then the second thing, of course, on the side, I had, मैं 9.5-10 साल JNK में सर्व किया. So where there is no family. So my daughter was very small. I went and off and on, kept going.
she was 11 at that.
तो 11-12 साल की हो गई और मैंने उसको देखा ही नहीं है. तो मैंने कहा यार ये तो नहीं, एक ही है. अब 4-5 तो है नहीं कि चलो एक नहीं है तो दूसरी आ गई, दूसरी चीज देख ली यार, ये तो चली जाएंगी अभी 5-6 साल में, कॉलेज वॉलेज करके चली जाएगी. सो आई नीड टू बी विद हर. सो दैट वाज वन ऑफ द पॉइंट दैट आई वांट टू बी देयर एंड डू इट, व्हिच वर्कड आउट फाइन
ऑब्वियसली.
सो शी वेंट विद मी, दे ऑल वेंट विद मी. यूएस गया तो MBA करने के लिए, तो
कहाँ से किया आपने?
द फ्लेचर स्कूल, टफ्ट यूनिवर्सिटी इन बॉस्टन.
Obviously, Tufts is very well known because firstly it's the Harvard Circle, right?
Yeah, Harvard, MIT,
Harvard, MIT है वहाँ पे, and 2-3 और भी है. Brown भी, Providence भी पास में. I did summer school in Brown.
Oh,
So that time I used to go to that zone. So firstly that's the thing with Tufts, and a lot of family people come there. So existing strong family foundations, their children have heard they go to Tufts.
yes.
How is Tufts?
So it's a very old university.
बहुत छोटी, और छोटी इतनी बड़ी भी नहीं है.
हाँ,
Not that
150 years old. It's very expensive. Also.
very expensive. And it's outside Boston a bit, right?
It's on the north, a little outside. So what happened was that मैंने GMAT, GRE exam सब कुछ दिया. So
क्या score है ना?
GRE was 322 on 340.
That's pretty good.
Which is pretty good. Not the best. जो 25 साल वाले देते हैं वो 340 में they'll get 335 and
अच्छा.
they'll get it. So which is okay. You have to understand, 15 years older, and which is okay. So I went with that score. And incidentally, I also mentor people who want to go and do that, veterans. So these are the choices that you make. Again, it's about choices, right? Either you can say, मैं 339 जब तक नहीं आएगा ना तो करता ही जाऊँगा. But I say, नहीं, 322 score is okay. I have 20 years of experience, which is got some उसका value है. I have the money to pay in case I don't get a full scholarship. And I want the experience, right? So when you look at all of these, you say, okay, I'll go with 322 and let me see what I can get. So I got USC Marshall LA में. I got an admit there with a 50% scholarship. Yeah, I got an admit there. So मैंने वो first fee भी pay कर दिया. Then some acquaintance of mine who was in Boston, से phone पे ऐसी बात हो रही तो बोलते अच्छा, you got there. Have you considered this one here? Tufts, and why not? Veterans का बड़ा अच्छा वहाँ पे होता है. US Armed Forces की भी आते हैं, and it's a very good place. So it was January, I think, and so second होता है ना, second round and spring. And So नहीं, second round for September.
Fall intake.
हाँ, तो मैंने कहा अप्लाई कर देते हैं, ठीक है, शॉर्ट डेट जो भी फीस है दे देते हैं. कर दिया हमने. तो उन्होंने कॉल किया, we had a conversation. I said we'd like to give you an admission and we'll give you 50% scholarship. Same as that. तो मैंने कहा that's great, but tell me why I should leave that and come to you. You're giving me the same,
What was the reason?
So they said, let me get back to you. Next day, they gave me 65% scholarship.
Like, nice.
Right? So they wanted me for the whatever experience I came with. I was a diversity candidate, different from, like, the typically India se jo hote hain sare, tech, B.Tech and this thing, and, worked in TCS or Infosys, and then GMAT score is 770 and they will come, right? So I was a very different candidate. So they wanted me and I went.
Tough सब गए, right? आपको लगता है कि जो आपने वहाँ सीखा, did that really play a difference? जब एक brand मिल गया बस, क्या
it made a difference.
in terms of corporate career?
It made a difference. And see, उसमें भी choices होता है, right? People said, यार वो 1 year का executive management कर लो, तुम 2 साल क्यों करने जा रहे हो?
हाँ,
right?
obviously.
At this age, why would you want to do it? So now, my take on that is, 1 year executive management is for people who are already in that domain, in that environment. They already worked, they understand कि accounting क्या होती है, वो finance, profit में क्या होता है, pricing कैसे करते हैं, generally एक idea होता है, right? In whatever field you are, function you are in, you have an idea. And you've been working in it for 10, 15, 20 years and you have a very good understanding. Now you want to go and bring legitimacy to your leadership claim.
Yeah.
More than
Well said.
getting that education की, यार वो finance में profit is revenue minus cost. मेरे को तो वहाँ से शुरू करना था.
Right.
तो मैंने कहा मैं उसमें चला जाऊँगा तो ये तो सब बड़े बड़े लोग हैं, and they all, most of them are sponsored by their companies. They're not looking for a job after that.
आते हैं enjoy करने के लिए आते हैं.
They're in a different space. No, I want to learn all these basic things. Then I can go and challenge somebody when I've, yeah. So I said 2 साल करूँगा मैं. So उसको जाके मैंने कहा 2 साल का करना है.
और कुछ नहीं किया, पढ़ाई की 2 साल.
2 साल पढ़ाई की. I worked with a startup there in Boston.
What is the startup about?
So this is a company in healthcare analytics called Sift. It's been acquired now 2-3 years ago.
SIFT.
CYFT. So Sift, same word is the same. Sift means sift through data, right?
Yeah.
So they changed it to CYFT. Small company, only 4 people at that time. And उसमें भी story है very interesting. So second term खत्म हो रहा है and then there is a summer break. 3-4 महीने का होता है. तो अब 42-year-old को कौन इंटर्नशिप देना चाहता है?
अच्छा, आप इंटर्नशिप मांगने गए थे?
मैं मांगने नहीं गया, मतलब मेरे को भी इंटर्नशिप चाहिए था. मैंने कहा यार इंडिया वापस नहीं आऊँगा, मुझे इंटर्नशिप करना. तो अब बूढ़े आदमी को कौन देगा? वो मूवी है ना 61-year-old guy did internship, that came later. Intern. तो इंटर्नशिप तो बहुत हाथ पैर मारे, उधर सारे कॉन्टैक्ट्स, सब लगाए. So there was a contact from my a senior guy from India who had also done USC Marshall, and he had a big consulting firm in San Francisco. So I was in touch with him, and that is the connect that you earlier talked about, right? This bond. I never met him. So I contacted him and this.
कोई आपका WhatsApp group कैसे बात कर? How do you contact people?
अभी WhatsApp है, but पहले नहीं था. पहले email करते थे.
कि email कहाँ से मिलती थी? ऐसी references आसपास.
कहीं से बात करके ढूंढ के कैसे हुआ? In 2014 when I was about to leave, I said US में कौन है? तो Facebook पे मैंने डाला एक post. So some people sent me emails.
Wow.
So you will not believe it. There was this guy who's now in his early 60s. He was in the army. He was in Boston and he's a US citizen. After leaving, his wife was a Canadian citizen who went there. Right. So I put it on Facebook. He contacted me and he said, yeah, great. And we have never met. So the day I landed in Boston, next day I phoned him. मेरा number जैसी SIM card आया तो मैंने message किया कि I'm here. So he says, okay, Saturday morning be ready at 11 a.m. Okay, तो ठीक है. So 10:30 he calls up and says, there is this guy who's coming to pick you up. We're going out for beer.
अच्छा.
I've never met this guy.
Wow.
And we went. That's the first time I met him. His wife.
What's his name, if you don't mind saying?
Colonel Tushar Hazra. Okay. And what is the connection? Only that he's been to NDA 13 years before me. Wow. There's no other connection. Uske baad we became very good friends.
Really?
Later my wife and daughter joined me. So they were very big support. You're in a different place. You don't have so much of money because you're a student. So all of that. So it was a big, it's a big journey there going through all of this as a student. My classmates were all 15 years younger to me.
Wow.
And you're sitting, so we were talking about internship. We'll come back to this later. Internship. So I didn't have 2 days before the semester ended. somebody called me up from a company called Verizon. It's a phone company.
Yeah, very big,
right? And they said, we've got your contact from somewhere, and there is this, project for 3 months in which we told that you guy. And essentially, वो क्या था कि stadium के अंदर they wanted to set up these telecom infrastructure, because see what happens, event होता है stadium के अंदर 50,000 1 लाख लोग आ जाते हैं, सबके phone है, तो सब block हो जाता है. Nobody can make calls, nothing, everything gets blocked. So you have to set up this thing during an event so that it continues. And nowadays it's more data and all that. I had this knowledge from my first job with ILNFS, because national games का opening ceremony, closing ceremony मैंने करवाया था. तो उसमें suddenly everybody said jam हो गया. Jam नहीं हुआ, 50,000 लोग बैठे हुए, सबके फोन चल रहे हैं, तो ऐसी जो. So that was the project. तो they said, can you join on Monday? तो मैंने कहा वो सब ठीक है, बट क्या मतलब काम क्या है, कॉम्पनसेशन क्या है, तो
आप तो फ्री इंटर्नशिप करोगे भी,
तो मैंने कहा कॉम्पनसेशन एक्चुअली डिफाइंस व्हाट इज द काइंड ऑफ वैल्यू ऑफ द वर्क. तो कॉम्पनसेशन दैट दे टोल्ड मी वाज एन अंडरग्रेड लेवल का $20 एग्जैक्टली. तो मैंने कहा कि नो, दिस डजंट सीम टू बी समथिंग व्हिच aligns with my experience and capability, and no, you can come Monday and all that. And I said I refused it. And 2 दिन में खत्म हो रहा है, कुछ भी नहीं है, तो रिफ्यूज तो कर दिया शेयर बन के. अब उसके बाद अब नथिंग. एंड आई सेड अभी 2 दिन के बाद क्या करेंगे, बिकॉज मैनी पीपल इंडियंस विल कम बैक टू इंडिया कि पैसे नहीं खर्च करने चाह रहे हैं. मैंने नहीं, वापस नहीं, मेरे को एक्सपीरियंस है. तो मैंने बैठ के आई फाउंड लिस्ट ऑफ स्टार्टअप्स इन बॉस्टन.
क्या ऑनलाइन सीरियसली?
हाँ, आई फाउंड अ लिस्ट एंड सबके कॉन्टैक्ट मी ईमेल आईडी होता है स्टार्टअप में, जिसमें 4 लोग कॉन्टैक्ट मी इज ओपन बाय द सीईओ, because he doesn't have that HR and that marketing. तो मुझे नहीं मालूम था. मैंने contact me पे email मारा, and only the title of the email, the subject line said veteran with 20 years of operations experience, I can work for you for free. लिखा, because हाँ सीखना था. Because I said यार अभी तो पैसे नहीं चाहिए, मुझे एक्सपीरियंस चाहिए, बट मैं अपने टर्म्स पे, आई डोंट वांट टू डू दिस $20 वाला काम, मेरे को अपने टर्म में एक्सपीरियंस चाहिए. मैंने ईमेल सब्जेक्ट लाइन एंड बॉडी में मैंने लिखा कि प्लीज लुक एट माई रेज्यूमे, और कुछ भी नहीं था. Nothing like dear, nothing. Just subject line, because subject line is what people see, right? And then here this is different. What is this? So within 2 hours I got 3 calls.
Wow.
And the first 2 didn't work out. The third one is like, this guy is a Harvard Medical School professor who started his company. He called and says, why do you want to work for free? I said, look, because nobody willing to pay me, and I want the experience. So he talked about my resume, kya and all that. Oh, this looks great. How do we do it? This is Monday morning, I'll be there. Tell me where your office is in Cambridge, normal. तो 8 बजे मैं पहुंच गया. वो अपनी चाबी लेके खड़ा हुआ था खोलने के लिए, छोटी सी. हम बैठ गए. So he says, what do you know about healthcare in the US? I said, nothing. So, but I have this advantage that I'm not being paid. So I can do anything I want. So I said, I don't know anything. He says, okay, so how can you do it? मैंने कहा, give me 2 days and I will tell you about healthcare.
फिर घर जाके रिसर्च की.
तो 2 दिन मैंने मतलब हेल्थ केयर
यूट्यूब पे ट्यूटोरियल देखे होंगे, कुछ वीडियोस देखी होंगी.
नहीं, उस टाइम पे इतनी नहीं होती थी, बट गूगल सर्च करके निकाल के बना के नोट्स बनाए. हाँ, सो देयर आर बेसिकली हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस होता है, मेडिकेड, मेडिकेयर, देयर आर डिफरेंट थिंग्स एंड देयर आर लॉट ऑफ एजेंसीज, देयर इंटरेक्शन, ऑल दैट, वो सब कुछ समझा मैंने. देन वेडनेसडे आई वेंट देयर एंड सो ही सेज, गाइस नेम इज लेन, वी स्टिल कनेक्टेड. So this guy says कि okay, tell me what you know about healthcare. तो मैंने वाइट बोर्ड लगाया और
पूरा ड्रॉ करके
बनाया, समझाया. तो 3 hours. At the end of it, he says that I think today I came to know many things that I also didn't know about healthcare, in industry in India, in the US. And I still have a photo of that whiteboard.
Amazing.
Thing. And then he says, okay, on Friday, this is Wednesday, on Friday, he says, we want to start paying you. तो तब तक क्या हो गया था कि यूनिवर्सिटी हैड अ प्रोग्राम, इफ यू गेट एन अनपेड इंटर्नशिप दे विल गिव अ स्टाइपेंड फॉर 2 months. सो आई टेकन दैट.
20 hours a week ना, यही वाला होता है?
नहीं, इट्स अ लिटिल डिफरेंट वन. सो दे सेड वी गिव यू $1,000 a month to help you sustain yourself. So I had signed up for that. So Friday he said, we want to start paying you. I said, no, now you can't pay me because I signed up for that. I can't take both. Okay. And Americans are like, on this sense, they're very, very fair. They want to be fair. They want to be seen as fair. There's no, but how does it work? I said, 2 months I will work for you for free. After that, we'll talk compensation and I will tell you what I expect. He was all right. But वो 2 महीने क्या है कि he was like, okay, or you're not giving him anything. So he would give me a gift card. Home Depot ka, here's 500. He knew my wife and daughter was joining me, so he'll give me this gift card. He says, I can't give you money, you'll not take it. So ye to le liya. He'll give me a restaurant ka card, go and have dinner, to give something, and he'll keep doing it, right? And that was his way of showing his appreciation.
आपको भी अच्छा लगता था?
अच्छा लगता था, it was good. And there were just 5 people in the company, and I was doing marketing and understanding how to what kind of clients to get for this.
तो बहुत कुछ सीखा वहाँ पे आपने?
बहुत कुछ, yeah. I did my first webinar, organized the first webinar, which was a disaster.
नहीं, Skype पे होगा उस time?
Skype पे. It was a disaster.
Why was it a disaster?
Disaster because, so it was a kind of a marketing oriented webinar, and there were 2-3 external people to come. And it wasn't a discussion, but basically it's a marketing thing. So practice karna tha. So that's where culture comes in, right? And this guy is a CEO, we are the same age, right? But in India, we have this thing, right? You're the boss. And so I said, Len, 10 o'clock, we'll all sit together and we'll have this practice session for this thing. He wouldn't come for that. We were busy with something. Karte. Final day aa gaya. And he sat, and I'm sitting there and getting this thing done. And he did this Zoom, Skype pe, he pressed something and the thing went
Amazing.
off. 5 minutes after the thing started, it just went off.
बढ़िया.
Because he did not practice, he didn't know what to do. So, went off. And then वहाँ से पीछे the crisis management में इसको take कर रहा हूँ and all that. उसके बाद बोलता है कि this is the thing. I said, look, you didn't come for any of the practices, so how would you expect to know what to do? You never did that. Why didn't you tell me? You should have pulled me into the room. Then I don't look, that's not the culture in India. We don't do it like that with our boss. So when boss says कि यार मैं बाद में देखूंगा, तुमने ठीक है, you know better, यार तुम बाद में देखोगे. But in America, it's not like that. He said, no, you should have told me. So that's a big, cultural shift. It's a lesson. यार ठीक है, तुम्हें अपना बोलना है, अपना करवाना है तो करवाना है.
जो सही है वो सही.
वो करना है.
सही बात.
So, and I was in that different, and that's part of the transition, right? It's not, transition is not कि एक दिन यूनिफॉर्म उतार दिया और अगले दिन तुम CEO बन गए. हाँ, ऐसा नहीं होता है. तो वो करके सीखा. Then there was one good thing that I read. There are a lot of these conferences where you want the keynote speaker. So it is all about who is reaching out first and tapping it. So मैंने सर यार मार्केटिंग करनी है ना, तो सबको मैंने ईमेल मारे, फोन किए, तो 2 जगह पे मैंने कीनोट स्पीकर बना दिया अपने CEO को.
Really?
In big conferences.
तो खुश हो गया.
Oh, how to manage this? And I talked to them.
Wow.
So it was for 3 months, and then they said, can you work for, last
time
during the thing. Then that was the 20-hour wala chala. So I worked for 7-8 months with them.
मजा आया?
Absolutely. And 2 महीने के बाद compensation की बात हुई. तो this क्या है? So I said, give me the median compensation for MBA students in Boston, which included MIT students, top 40, right? So it was more than that. It was about on an annual term, it was about $175,000-$80,000. Oh wow, annualized. So he said, क्या है? तो मैंने बोला इतना होना चाहिए. Whatever, they talked and they did. And I had a conversation with my career services because they advised me कि क्या बोलना चाहिए and all that. I don't know. They gave it to me. And so I worked for about 7-8 months, which took care of a lot of our expenses when my family came. I could buy a car and, all of that.
Tell me one thing. आप जब गए to Boston, and as you said, you were pretty people are very young to you. Did that change your way you look at life?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because आप अब उनके हाथ बैठ रहे हो, उनकी बातें कर रहे हो, and I'm sure you are very friendly. You would have become friends with them. तो एकदम young हुए ना?
नहीं, it's a big culture shock. क्या होता है? किसी young people, what is important to them is very different from what is important to you, right? So class में बैठे तो tiered classes, what you showed me, it's a tiered classes, and you're sitting on the second, third row, and you'll find आगे बैठे वो Facebook के laptop में. हाँ, but यार ये प्रोफेसर है, 70 साल का प्रोफेसर है, अपने ज्ञान दे रहा है. इस कोर्स, every course has a dollar value, right? To about $9,000 for credits, course and credits. 10 credits, yeah, so many credits. So you're paying $9,000 to hear this man speak, and then you're looking at Facebook. तो मेरे को समझ में नहीं आता कि ये क्या है, क्यों कर रहे हैं और लोन लेके आए हुए हैं. But that is how it was. And then you do group assignments.
बहुत मजा.
तो उसमें यार you say यार with your experience you say यार ये ऐसे होना चाहिए, वो कुछ और ही बोलेंगे. But you have to go with that because 90%
सबको लेके चलना पड़ेगा.
Those young people, you have to go with that and see where it goes.
सीखने को भी मिलता है, I think. सीखने
को मिलता है कि वो कैसे सोच रहे हैं. So different generation you are seeing very closely in a non-threatening environment for them.
Yeah.
नहीं तो in a company what happens, you see an analyst or a developer in my team, when I talk to him or her, they're saying, yeah, this guy with 20 years of experience is telling me something, then say yes, no. They'll be very, very guarded, right? It's even if it's open, it's not the same.
Yeah.
In a educational environment क्या होता है कि हम लोग सब टीम मेरा एक है, so हम कुछ भी बोलेंगे नहीं मेरे को ठीक नहीं लगा. इनफैक्ट एक कंसल्टिंग कोर्स किया था मैंने, so it was a experiential consulting course, where the class is distributed into teams and you do live projects with companies.
Pro bono kind of.
तो मैंने जो किया था, that was with the government of Estonia. It's a very small country next to Russia. Famous country. तो उनका क्या है, डिजिटल आइडेंटिटी है. एंड द लॉजिक इज इट्स सो स्मॉल कि जैसे ही थोड़ा सा झगड़ा होता है ना, रशिया उनको खा जाती है. तो उन्होंने कहा यार ये नहीं चलेगा, वी विल क्रिएट अ डिजिटल मॉडल ऑफ आवर कंट्री विच विल बी लिविंग आउटसाइड. सो इवन इफ रशिया कम्स एंड कैप्चर्स अस, our virtual country will continue outside the geography. So they had a digital identity project. And आप €100 दो and आपको कार्ड मिलता है which allows you to start businesses in Europe. Anyone in the world can do it. And Estonia is part of European Union, so you do that and you entry to European Union and all that. So they wanted to understand the marketing project. So which countries can we approach and go and find people to take this thing? And we did that project with the government of Estonia. So all virtual mode में वहाँ से कर रहे हैं and we're doing it. And there are these 2-3 people, and now this is time bound. You have to do that project report and presentation before the semester ends. And younger people, so they were little, ये इधर भी करें, वो भी देख लेते हैं, ये भी कर लेते हैं, वो भी कर लेते हैं. It was going here and there. And so a couple of times I had to kind of bring them back, which people did not. They went and complained to the professor. This guy is very harsh.
अच्छा.
And so he called me and...
थोड़ा मेलो तो हो गया ना.
Like harsh in the sense, it's a very relative term, right? So like if you're focused on this particular goal that needs to be done and it's time bound, you can either say यार let's get this done, or you can say यार थोड़ा delay हो गया, थोड़ा scope नहीं पूरा हुआ, which is at that point, and even today I'm not very comfortable.
And you want to do small talk with them also, if I'm not wrong, right?
Not too much, because you don't.
Then you look more harsh.
More harsh.
Even if you do small talk and then you...
Correct.
You know what I mean?
You have that connect.
Yeah.
But there is a generational gap. It's not easy to establish that connect. So they complained. So the professor, he didn't tell me anything. The project खत्म हो गया, हमने presentation कर दी, सब कुछ, it became great. We got an A grade and all that. After that, he called me and says, these 2 people, they complained against you. And I told them that, look, if this project gets completed, it's because of him. Because he could see that, this guy will bring some... And he didn't interfere, he didn't call me in there. He just let it go. And at the end, he told me that, this is what happened. So that also kind of... Then you realize, right, that what you think is normal may not be normal for somebody sitting in front of you. Because there is a generational gap, or there is some other gap. Social gap, cultural gap. So you have to be mindful of that when you're working. Right? So those are part of that whole transition.
So now then you came back to India, you did a couple of stints, IFL,
Muthoot, and then I worked with HSBC.
Before that you first with IFL, right?
ILFS.
ILFS, which is now
defunct.
Then you got to Muthoot.
Yes.
And now finally you're with HSBC. Yes. Now I'll not go into the 2 experiences on ILFS and Muthoot. Let's talk a bit about HSBC, right? If someone looks at your current role, they would assume you did BTech. You worked in a services company for 8-10 years.
Yeah.
You went on site. One of your clients liked you. They converted you into their company. From that company, you came to India, set up their Indian offices, then eventually became a leader. That is an ideal journey.
That's what they would think.
Looking at your current position. What is your current position if you could...
I'm a lead vice president analytics.
Lead vice president analytics, right?
Yeah.
So looking at that, that's what they would assume. Now, if we try to understand how did you get this job, and when you got this job, internally as well as externally, did people question that why did you get this job?
Okay. So first I'll take how did you get this job, right? उसके लिए थोड़ा पीछे जाना पड़ेगा कि एनालिटिक्स मेरे शुरू कहाँ से हुआ. तो very quickly if I say, जब मैं आर्मी में था, तो you see data is at a different scale. It's very localized. And at that time, this I'm saying 20 years ago, इतना use नहीं होता था. The Excel sheet, वो भी Excel was not used for calculations. It was just used for making a chart with some information.
Right.
तो मैं UN में था in Congo 2005-06, and so I was always interested in this, this thing, because I've seen Microsoft Office 3.11 in 1994.
Wow.
And before that, whatever the DOS and all of that. So first course I did was in 1986. in basic, GW basic it was called. So, but I was always interested in this thing. And so, वहाँ पे UN में क्या था? I was in a function, it was called the G2 or intelligence function. So, we were looking at monitoring the militia activities in a certain region. There are a number of these militias fighting, doing all the stuff. So, and there were some 20-25 of them, उनके नाम भी नहीं पता चलते हैं, and everything you have to understand what's happening, right? That's a role that I was doing. Not about maintaining records of what understanding relationships, what's happening, what's going to happen next and stuff like that. So मैंने कहा ये ऐसे नहीं चलेगा. हर दिन रिपोर्ट आती थी उस रीजन के उससे, तो उसको कंपाइल करते थे, हम भेज देते थे. तो मैं ऐसे नहीं, आई नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड, सो आई नीड टू बी एबल टू लुक एट दिस बाय ज्योग्राफी, आई नीड टू बी एबल टू लुक एट दिस कि आई सेलेक्ट दिस मिलिशिया ग्रुप एंड आई शुड बी एबल टू सी क्या क्या किया उन्होंने पिछले 2 साल में.
एनालिटिकल शुरू से
दैट वाज देयर. तो मैंने क्या किया उस टाइम पे एक्सेस MS एक्सेस में मैंने एक डेटाबेस.
क्या होता है मुझे नहीं.
MS एक्सेस इज लाइक एक्सेल, PowerPoint, Word and Access. This is 2005-06.
Okay.
It's still Access still there, but hardly used because there's so many other shows. MS Access was very basic. It was a database kind of thing, and I've used it extensively because that was the only thing available on your Windows. So मैंने database बनाया पूरा. When I kept putting every day's report, I would put into this database. And then one day, what happened? They said New York, the head of United Nations military, this thing is coming. And so tomorrow there's going to be a briefing. And all of you need to brief on your area.
Yes.
Abhi suddenly, you say, यार, you have to burn the midnight oil. रात भर बैठना पड़ेगा क्योंकि सारी रिपोर्टें निकाल के सब लोग ढूंढ रहे हैं कि क्या हुआ, and trying to make sense of it. मैंने कहा no problem. मैंने अपने database तक डाला ऐसे. Okay, by militia groups, what happened? Wrote a summary. By timelines.
Visualize
नहीं किया उस टाइम पे. It was the basic. So I did all that, put it into a PowerPoint with a few maps and this and that, and I was ready in 2 hours. And I went home. हो गया काम. अगले दिन आए briefing. So and these guys said, "What did you do? You were not there in office." Yeah, because I built this thing, and so then they said, "Can you give it to me also?" And so there were 16 people in the office. All of them got the copy.
Amazing.
So that's the start point. And then of course, I was in Army headquarters, the one that I told you कि promotions होते थे. तो उसमें process was manual. They would get reams and reams of this printout of people's career, things.
Printouts आते हैं.
Printouts because security. You don't want to
Files, मोटी files.
हाँ, files में. And उसको पूरा analyze करना है कि किसने कौन से courses नहीं किए, mandatory courses नहीं किए, तो they can't be promoted, ये वो. And at a time, you're looking at some 500 candidates. Overall, about 2,000, 3,000 candidates. And so,
to save your work, you did analytics to minimize.
to stop wasting my time. तो क्या होता था कि when I joined that organization, you generally do 2-3 years. तो मुझे अभी बोर्ड आने वाला है अगले महीने, तो अभी से now sitting late till 10 o'clock, then Saturday को भी
एकदम क्लरिकल.
बिल्कुल मतलब बैठ के करे जा रहे हैं उसको.
नोट बना रहे हैं,
मैनुअली करे. मैंने 2 बार किया, मैंने 1 साल किया. मैंने कहा
ये तो गलत बात.
मैंने उसको लिया, मैंने कहा how can I automate it? So again I built an access वाला model.
समझ गया.
Which could
खुद बिल्ड किया है, किसी ने नहीं सिखाया था आपको.
खुद बिल्ड किया मैंने. And so what happened, उसमें मैं I was trying it, I put my data and I would work on it, and so I didn't need to sit late. I knew कि मेरे को अभी लेट बैठने का, तो मैं 5:30 निकलता था. तो मेरे बॉस ने बुलाया, why are you leaving early? I said, I'm leaving on time. He says, no, everybody else is sitting. They have work, so they're sitting. I don't have work, I'm not sitting. He says, okay. He didn't like it. And this is a colonel, sahab, I'm a lieutenant colonel, right? And this organization was such that in the army, we would get posted only if you're at the top of the, you're in merit, you're right there, and your integrity is outstanding throughout. No question on your character, because that's where you want to put those kind of people in promotions and all that. You don't want so career-wise, that you're top, and one wrong this thing and you're finished, right? So you don't want to. So, but this guy says, no. So, agle din fir. So at 5:30, office used to get over, and he called me at 5:20 and he gave me this file कि ये इसका जरा देखना है policy में क्या है. And I knew he just wants to make me sit. हाँ. तो मैंने फाइल देखा, खोला, उसको अपने ड्रॉर में डाला. मैंने bye. I'm off, sir. What about this thing, sir? It'll take me some time. I'll give it to you tomorrow. And अभी तो वैसे भी नहीं है. मैं चला गया. So he didn't like it, obviously, and I was not in a position to tell him why I'm able to leave. So 2-3 days later, he called me and he gave me a counseling letter.
Oh, so that's a big thing.
Career counseling.
That's a big thing, right?
Yeah.
You get documented.
Yeah.
Documented.
No, that it doesn't unless you sustain it, and So he gave me this thing. And he didn't mention that you're leaving earlier. Actually, you are not doing. So मैंने कहा ठीक है sir. Sign कर दिया मैंने, ठीक है, okay. And I again 5:30. I left. So that happened. And then when the board actually took place, by the time my thing was ready.
And he showed them the...
And I showed this to them and said कि मैं ये कर रहा हूँ. And this is why you're late. तूने हमको क्यों नहीं दिया? And then, you know, they called the big guy, the general saab who's there. And I, so 1 month I got a counseling letter. And then next month I got a commendation by the chief. The chief of army staff.
तो आपसे
For the same thing.
वाह, तो आपसे पहले लोग नहीं यूज करते थे कुछ?
नहीं करते थे.
तो खुद हाथ से बैठे करते?
वो हाथ से करते थे. And
नाउ आप करते हैं?
I mean, today it is now 13 years since I left that office. Last year I got a call from a serving officer in that branch. He called me and said, "Sir, आपने जो बनाया था वो अभी भी चल रहा है."
Wow.
And it's being modified over time. And it's a big thing. And it's still running after 13 years.
Very big thing.
So, and see, my job did not require me to do it.
That's very big thing.
So, अब वो कोई बोलो यार तुमको किस लिए क्या, तुमको मेडल चाहिए था, अवार्ड चाहिए? नहीं मेरे को यार, I just wanted to make my life easy.
That's a big thing. Now think how the impact, right? आपने, you actually played a role in which the Indian Army is being promoted.
Yes.
But like think of, like that's a very big thing.
So it saves time. It is more accurate.
Wow.
You know, stuff like that.
Respect.
And sure enough, you know, it was like next month I got a commendation from the chief.
Amazing.
Great work, great job done. And then I was getting promoted and became a thing. So
Now
from there,
now we see what you're doing.
yeah. And then when I went to Boston, it's a regular MBA, but you could do courses in Harvard and MIT also. That's how
Partnership है ना लोग.
do that. So MIT में मैंने जाके एक analytics का course किया, machine learning का course किया. And there was another thing called business dynamics. So this is a software-based business modeling, right? So you say Uber, right? In Bangalore, Uber has come in. So there are 20 cars, and then people have this app and they call it. It takes a lot of time for the car because there are very few. So the wait time is long. Pricing is high because demand and supply. But over a period of time, more and more drivers will come because they say drivers are being paid a lot.
Incentives देते हैं ना वो.
So there is a peak and trough. There is a, you know, this whole model that you can create on the software and many other things like that. So this is a course in MIT, and it was amazing because all of these extremely brilliant people in MIT, and there's this old man, 42 years old, who's sitting there with them, and all these.
थोड़ा intimidate नहीं हुआ आप जाके वहाँ पे?
Sure, पहले एक दो दिन हुआ, but over a time, you know, you got
मेहनत से कुछ भी कर लो.
you can do it.
Right.
And so there was one problem set that they gave us where it was a simulation of an airline business. So they on software, and they said, here is the access to it. Over the next 1 week, you have to simulate the running of this business, and it has to last for 10 years. And we'll see at the end of it कि किसके कितने profit and you know the market capitalization, all that.
Yeah.
So group था, so the other two, there were two girls in my group. One was from MIT and one was from another college, Wellesley College or something. So we all did remotely. We worked, and so I spent almost over that weekend. I spent almost 20 hours on that problem because it's so exciting. Huh? We kept trying it. कि क्या होता है इसमें? And when we submitted it, out of this class of 45-50 people, only 2 teams had successfully run that business for 10 years, and one was mine.
Wow, amazing.
And so the professor, you know, the Iranian professor, he says, where is Abraham? And the big, you know, this thing. So I got up and I was like, yeah, okay. So tell me, how did you do it and what was the thing? And so he asked me to explain the logic and all that. And this bright MIT class is sitting there and listening to me. So that was like, you know, that's what got me the kick. Yeah, at this age, I can go and do that. And there are these extremely bright people जो बैठे हुए और मेरे को सुन रहे हैं. This old man from India now is explaining कि airline business कैसे चलता है.
Money, that's insane.
So it was probably luck or whatever, but you know, there was some very basic thing.
Problem solving curiosity is the game, right? You were always curious, how do I solve this in a more efficient way?
And
I'll explain.
the willingness to sit and, you know, कि यार वो solve नहीं हुआ तो घुसवा के लगे यार कि solve करना है.
Yeah.
So that helped, and so it was a very good course. I'm still in touch with that professor. I'm sure. You know, and so from there, this analytics thing started, and it was not. When I joined Muthoot, it was not an analytics role; it was an operations role. They didn't have analytics in that company. So what happened? Again, story. The chairman told me.
What is the name of chairman?
Thomas John Muthoot.
He's the promoter group.
He's a promoter group, and I met him last week. I was in Toronto. I met him. Good relations.
He's a billionaire, na?
Yeah. So he, you know, he said, you got to visit branches all over the country to understand this business, the people who are there and how it works. So I would go. तो मैंने कहा यार ऐसे ही जाने से फायदा नहीं है, आई नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड द फाइनेंशियल्स ऑफ एवरी ब्रांच व्हेन आई विजिट, एंड टू क्या प्रॉफिटेबल नहीं है, क्या है, कौन सा प्रोडक्ट बिकता है, क्या होता है इसमें. तो मैंने फाइनेंस को बोला कि मेरे को डेटा दो,
मॉडल बनाओ.
हाँ. तो एंड आई वाज न्यू टू द कंपनी एंड आई वाज रिपोर्टिंग टू द चेयरमैन डायरेक्टली.
You were reporting to the chairman?
चेयरमैन. सो दे थॉट ही मस्ट बी सम बिग शॉट, सारी डेटा उन्होंने दे दिया.
हाँ.
बिकॉज उनके कभी कुछ प्रोसेस कुछ था ही
वो
नहीं.
चेयरमैन को रिपोर्ट करा तो भाई फिर.
तो दे गेव मी दिस ह्यूज डेटा डंप.
हाँ.
तो व्हेन आई वाज ट्रैवलिंग आई वुड एंड आई लर्न टैब्लो
अच्छा, खुद सीखी.
व्हेन आई वाज इन हॉस्टल.
वाह.
तो मैं प्लेन में बैठ के ना उसको बनाता था, डैशबोर्ड बना देता था कि हर ब्रांच का क्या नंबर्स है.
हम्म.
So I would go around first 2-3 times when I was making it. Then when I came back, so he would personally want a review from me. कि क्या हो रहा है, the chairman. कि इस branch में क्या है,
क्या चल रहा है.
tell me the ground reality.
इतने वो है, इतने hand.
Yeah, he would always be like.
At that level he is doing.
And he would also visit branches. That he said everybody should visit, especially product head.
कितनी branches हैं उस time पे?
3,600.
My God.
It's not possible for anyone to visit
My God.
5 years. It's like that. But you can only make sample visits and
Still that's.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So 2-3 months later when I came back, he said, okay, what happened? So I said, let me show you something I want to show you and we'll discuss. मैंने लगाया dashboard और उसमें profit and loss in this. What is the asset under management? He said, how do you get this from? Did finance give it to you? Did IT give it to you? I said, no, sir. They gave me this data set and I built this to understand what's happening in those branches. He says, can you do this for? I said, sir, it'll require.
It's a function only. It's a new function.
He says, okay, set up. So from learning Tableau and this machine learning course, laterally I moved to setting up an analytics.
That's genuinely amazing.
And this company is like at that time their asset under management was 15,000 crores.
Mainly gold.
Gold loans. But 14,000 employees. So not a small company. Can you set it up? I said, ठीक है, it's a learning for me also. But मैं करते हैं. So from deciding what platform, what kind of people to hire. So I started with one SQL developer and one Tableau developer से शुरू किया to hiring a full-fledged function head because I had 2-3 functions. So, and getting that thing running, to getting a daily report of the business every morning in an email.
Amazing. Amazing. You would love it, huh? Sorted. आज आपके बैचेस बीच में कितने लोग आपके अंदर?
आज मेरे पास कम है, about 10, but they are all both senior.
And they are
more experienced people, and it's a global function, very different. Here we don't do customer-facing stuff, but more of procurement, analytics, and corporate real estate. In fact, one of the problems that I'm trying to solve today is we have this hybrid working. Now, there are peaks and troughs every day of the week, right? Some day of the week there's nobody, and holiday होता है तो कुछ हो जाता है. So we're trying to predict कि कल कितने लोग आएंगे, because building facilities management, if they know कि 6 बजे से 12 बजे के बीच में इतने लोग होंगे, उतने का breakfast,
बहुत बड़ा impact cost पे है.
Dinner, power, कि how many floors should we open, because in our company there is no fixed seating.
Yeah.
So you just book and come. So if let's say only half the capacity is going to come tomorrow, you can potentially close half the building, no? Power, air conditioning, water, facilities, सब चाहिए नहीं उस दिन के लिए. So we're trying to figure out how we can use data to kind of do this on a day-to-day basis. This is one of the things.
Wow.
And many other, similar interesting problems which are very different from typical risk, credit risk and, customer acquisition problems. This is a very different problem, but also has a major impact on the cost.
Very big impact. Very big impact. So now I think we are at the very end segment. Couple of things about what people can learn out of you, and we break it into 2 or 3 parts.
Yeah.
The first part is veterans. Veterans are very scared, some of them, to leave their existing, life in the army or whatever, and military, and come in the corporate world. A lot of them want to, a lot of them have to, be it the financial reasons or whatever. So what is your one piece of advice to the veterans who are looking to transition?
Yeah, this is something that I've been doing for quite some time now. One piece of advice is, do not compromise on your capability in terms of how you see your capability, and do something which is below your level. Don't do that. And to do this, it's not easy. You have to struggle.
आपने भी किया ना?
Struggle किया. और सब कुछ करने के बाद, MBA करने के बाद में ऐसा नहीं कि आप अरे आ जाओ यार प्लीज जॉइन अस, ऐसा नहीं होता. उसके बाद भी स्ट्रगल होता है, बिकॉज there is a bias. Oh, you don't have 20 years of relevant experience.
And because the comp people want is of that level.
Right?
But
बोले यार तुम्हारा ये नहीं है, तुमने 20 साल वही चीज नहीं किया है, it was not cheatable. All that will happen, but the at some point the right kind of people will
they value
connect
you.
with you. They will value you, and you will reach somewhere, and you'll at least have that satisfaction that you did what you were capable of.
Right.
Otherwise, you'll say, I'll take the easy path. I'm coming out. This security wala thing, I'll go there. And a lot of people ask me this thing. And so I tell them, look, and that's where this whole thing about what your goal is, that's where you start from. Even for young people, the same thing I say. What is your goal? What do you want to be in life? And for veterans, मैं पूछता हूँ, सीधी सवाल करता हूँ, when you're 60 years old, where do you see yourself? You know, कि मैं अभी खत्म काम working life generally हो गया है, where do you see yourself? Now you work backwards from there. Somebody says, I want to be the global head of security of this big multinational. All right. We will 10 years, work backwards, and where should you be to get to that place? Then you work backwards and say कि वो सब करने के लिए अगले 2 साल में तुम्हें क्या करना है? Then you say, okay, that means today I have to do my resume for this. I have to do this course. I have to connect with these kind of people. Right? 3 years from today, I have to try and get a global assignment somewhere because that will give me global exposure. Then when I say कि मैं global CEO वो head बन सकता हूँ, तो बोलेगा यार इसका exposure है इसको, यार तुमने वहीं किया है, इंडिया में काम किया है, उधर में global head नहीं होगा. So you have to do this, and there are many paths to reach your goal. I'm not saying there is only one path.
पर बहुत अच्छी बात आपने बोली कि I think ego zero रखनी पड़ेगी. वो kind of reinvent. Zero से start करना है. आपने भी zero से किया.
In fact, एक दिन Boston में there was a CEO of a big health insurance company came in. कैसे पकड़ के लाए पता नहीं, but वो आ गया, छोटी कंपनी में आती नहीं है. So we had a nice presentation. I was happy on that. When he left, तो Amazon से मैंने standing tables होते हैं ना जो height adjustment वाले, वो आ गए. तो क्या करें? जो developers है वो तो we don't want them to get into this. They're building something. There's a timeline. So me and the CEO, we got together and set that table up. Obviously, यार ये colonel साहब जो who was commanding 16,000 people and he's doing this, या अभी टेबल लगा रहा है, बोलोगे तो फिर तुम कुछ नहीं कर सकते. यार ये है करना है, there's nothing. अच्छी बात करेंगे, right? See, nobody is asking, and वो भी होता है कि I had finished this thing, I had just went one last day to meet them and thing, and they said there is a very important meeting and they're all looking hassled, which is we want to get coffee. Startup है तो उसके अंदर वो भी नहीं है. तो मैंने कहा I'll get coffee. So I went to the coffee shop.
खुद लेके. Amazing.
Got it and gave it to them. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, 100%.
See, when I wanted experience, those guys
नहीं, that's a very good.
took me, na?
जी.
So that's how I give it back.
Very nice.
So there is nothing wrong in doing those. There is nothing demeaning unless you think it is demeaning.
Fair enough. So what is your advice to companies now on the other side, right? Because now a lot of companies have started talking about veteran programs. But क्या है जो मैंने personally देखा है, ये बातें मतलब ये अच्छा लगता है बोर्ड रूम में दिखाना, इन्वेस्टर प्रेजेंटेशन में ऐड कर देना डाइवर्सिटी, बट रियलिटी आपको ही पता है इतना नहीं है. एंड इसका रीज़न ये है कि जो हायरिंग मैनेजर्स है वो खुद बिलीव नहीं करते इसमें. उनको टॉप लेवल पे बोल दिया जाता है कि आपको ये मैंडेट है, इतना % होना चाहिए, बट खुद वो बिलीव नहीं करते. तो आप उनको क्या बोलोगे अबाउट वेटरन्स? व्हाई शुड यू हायर वेटरन्स?
What I would say is that if you don't have any veterans in your company, hire one.
देखो तो क्या
देखो थोड़े दिन. And I'm not saying you'll only get a positive experience.
Fair enough.
You'll have
all kinds.
rigid, some people may not be. Like any organization, even the armed forces, 85% people will be चल रहे हैं. There are the 5% who are driving everything. There are 10% who are like, they should be out of the organization. They should not be there. So expecting that every veteran will be outstanding and fantastic is not right. You will get different types of veterans, different type of roles. So try karo, and what I have seen, any company that has taken one always comes back and says we want more.
अच्छा idea. एक से start करो.
Good idea. You get to understand how this person is working, what his limitations are, what is he really good at. Now there are women also, right? So you hire some women veterans. That's amazing, absolutely amazing, because that's a woman who comes with a little softer aspect of the military, and you realize that it's not all about the rifle leke baita aur goli mara logo. It's not that. And try.
Very good advice.
Start slow. You cannot say suddenly I will hire 10% of my workforce will be veteran. It cannot happen like that.
Yes.
It's not realistic.
Perfect.
And it makes sense. and they are good at, project management, getting things done on time. Some of them, very few of them, may be good at technology also if they've had that exposure. But they're reliable, right? That's I think the most critical thing about veterans. They'll be reliable. They will not get involved in office politics and this kind of stuff. They will be loyal to the organization till proved otherwise. At that point, they will leave. Or if they realize that, in terms of compensation and things, they are being given कि वो
unfair हो रहा है,
उनको पता चल जाता है. See, I've seen
सबको पता लगा.
हाँ, lot of people, what happens is when they're hiring, a guy coming out, so he's desperate to get into an employee. He's never been unemployed, so he'll take anything that comes. He doesn't know whether this compensation is
fair to him
or not. And वो आ जाता है तो 3-4 महीने में he comes to know. Then he's on the way out.
Obviously.
So anyone who says, यार मैंने veteran ना सस्ते में ले लिया, तो just short term, then you'll keep switching. But you get fair one. Maybe keep a little and say, let's keep a little variable pay and see how, because I don't know how we're going to
fair enough.
Just fair. And then you see how it, works out.
And finally, what is your advice? So I'm 23 years old. What is your advice to a 23-year-old?
23-year-old, yeah, I can. I don't know.
20.
Yes, I don't know if I'm qualified for that, but what I would say is that today there are so many options and there is a flood of information.
Right.
So when you're looking to chart your career, I would say don't go by the trends, because trends are like, trends will go up and then they will go down.
100%.
I would say look at what you want to do in life. What's your long-term goal? Where do you want to be 20 years from today? Well, for a 21-year-old, you say, where do you see yourself when you're 40? Can you visualize it? And then you say, okay, what is it that, how should I build my personality to be able to do this first job, right? And which doesn't tie me to that first job.
समझ गया. मतलब think bigger.
Think bigger. So, for instance, in the context of analytics, क्या आप लोग बोलते हैं क्या सीखूं मैं, टैबलो सीख लूं, विजुअलाइजेशन अच्छा रहेगा, सीख लो, लेकिन अगली कंपनी में पावर बीआई तो फिर क्या करोगे, तीसरी में जाओगे क्लिक सेंस से फिर क्या करोगे. So, I would say, okay, learn that particular thing, but understand the concept.
The context also.
Context. So when you understood the context, डैशबोर्ड में होता क्या है, बेसिकली क्या चाहते हैं बिजनेस वाले, क्या देखना चाहते हैं. Once you understood that, then टैबलो लगा लो, क्विकसेंस लगा लो, एक्सेल लगा लो, you'll be able to build it because you understood what is the goal of building this. That is one. And second is, my advice is always look to grow, and that growth is not just in terms of that specific skill set. It is in terms of the context of the thing, right? So if you have a fair understanding of what's happening around you, the world, economy में क्या हो रहा है आजकल, politics में क्या हो रहा है, awareness.
Be well read.
Huh?
You should be well read.
Well read. If you don't have a habit of reading, like I started reading when I was in 6th class, and
how much do you read a day?
I read about 1.5 hours. I read about 30 books in a year.
Nice.
It's fair, not too great, but it's fair.
That's
right?
good.
But it's because I have a habit of the last 30 years. It's not something that can start one day.
Yeah.
But you see, reading से क्या होता है, एक तो it takes effort to write a book. तो जिसने लिखा है, बहुत मेहनत करी है उसने, दिमाग लगाया है.
और डिटेलिंग है. हाँ. मूवीज में आप देखते हो डिटेलिंग
नहीं है, राइट? लाइक इंस्टाग्राम में फोटो डाल दिया, कुछ भी डाल दिया, नहीं. तो सोच के बनाया, स्टोरी बनाई है या कुछ लिखा है उसमें, उसके तो आपको 3-4 घंटे में या 1-2 दिन में आपको ज्ञान मिल जाएगा.
बहुत ज्ञान मिल
है ना. So you have to go through that whole thing to read to the end of the book. It gives you patience to understand fully what's happening. It gives you that thing that there are many viewpoints. All of those things come in, which is very important. Even when I interview candidates, कि इसके लिए आया है, डेवलपर रोल के लिए आया है या किसी उसके लिए आया, तो मैं पूछता हूँ, I ask about some things around the world. ये क्या हो रहा है? What do you think is happening?
Yeah.
If the guy is blank, यार ठीक है, he may be the best coder, but he will not understand the context and not be able to build great solutions.
Right.
He will always need supervision.
Right.
So there are things like that, and be open to mentally move. लोगों को होता है मुझे बैंगलोर में चाहिए, मुझे इस टाइप की कंपनी में चाहिए, मुझे ये वाला काम चाहिए, मुझे इतनी सैलरी चाहिए. I would say don't be limited by it. In fact, one of the things I suggested to my daughter, and she was kind of okay, teach for India, right? You go and teach children for 2 years. That's a commitment. You have to teach for 2 years. There is no better way of understanding the real India. If you want to go into business and run a business where those are the kind of people who are going to be your customers,
100%.
right? If you only studied in a very fancy college and then
पता ही नहीं लगा क्या चल रहा
reality नहीं समझ में आएगी.
है. 100%.
तो उस टाइप की चीजें करो. When you're 21, 22, you can do it. When you're 40, it's still a little more difficult.
Yes.
Right? So those are the kind of things that I would say, keep an open mind and experiment. Even if you get a little less salary, learn to live with it, because that's a big learning. Right? You say that, okay, I'm going to kind of cut down on a few things because I want to learn. And then at some point I will get that because my learning will take me there.
Money always follows.
It will follow. It will happen. So those are the kind of things that I would suggest to a young.
I think, Abraham, very, very honestly, if you ask me, I have personally learned a lot in this podcast. And आपकी स्टोरी में सबसे बढ़िया बात लगी, आपको डर नहीं लगा. आप मतलब सब कुछ छोड़ने के, और आपको ना मतलब आई एम सॉरी टू यूज इट, थोड़ा एक ये हिंदी में वर्ड है बेशरम वाली बात होती है.
बिल्कुल बनना पड़ता है
वो मुझे, और आपके लेवल पे लोग बोलते नहीं है,
बनना पड़ता है.
और आपने दिखाया है. एंड यू नो दैट स्टोरी टेल्स अस, फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस, राइट, दिस इज समथिंग विच इज ट्रूली बिग. एंड आई थिंक अगर हम लोग भी अपने काम में इफ यू आर ऑनेस्ट स्टूडेंट, हम बेशरम हमें क्या चाहिए, हम मेहनत करेंगे, हम बेशरम है उस बारे में.
मतलब वो होता है ना कि अगर आप सही चीज कर रहे हो,
जी,
किसी को मार नहीं रहे हो और
हाँ, मतलब मेरा मतलब,
तो आपको जो चाहिए आप मांगो. अगर मांगोगे नहीं तो मिलेगा नहीं.
बहुत सही बात.
सीधी सी बात है. See, I tell my daughter statistics, right? She's studying statistics. This is the moment you ask, the probability of getting it is 50%.
Right.
Yes or no? If you don't ask, probability is 0. So ask.
Thank you, Abraham. I think I learned a lot, and thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Really a pleasure.
Thank you.